Tammany Parish Planning Zoning Commission meeting of June the 1st. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Seeger.
Here.
Ress.
Here.
McInnes.
Here.
Willie.
Here.
Doherty.
Here.
Barcelona.
Here.
Fitzmaurice.
Here.
Crawford.
Here.
Drum.
Here, mine Caroline.
Randolph.
Here.
Truxillo.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Announcements, please silence all phones and electronic devices. If you disagree with anything this commission has one way or the other, whether it's for or against, you have the right to appeal it to the council. There are appeals cards over on the railing to the right. Speaker cards if you wish to speak. There are also speaker cards over there. Public speaking is 10 minutes each side and 5 minutes for rebuttal. And please exit the building once your case has been heard. Please rise for the invocation by Commissioner Randolph and the pledge by Commissioner Drum.
Gracious Father, once again we come to you as humble as we know how, but with thanksgiving and praise in our hearts as we recognize who you are and who you've been in each and every one of our lives. We thank you for your grace and mercy. You blessed us with a very wonderful and beautiful Memorial Day weekend, and we thank you for our families. And Lord, we thank you for this meeting tonight. Lord, we ask a special blessing upon our commissioners and our staff and our parish leaders, and more importantly, our citizens that we serve. Help us, dear Lord, tonight is in your holy name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Commissioners, in your packet was the minutes from the May 4th meeting. Hopefully you've had a chance to review them. And I'll have a motion to approve or otherwise. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Fitzmaurice to approve. Commissioner Randolph.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Okay, thank you. Staff, we have any cases to be postponed?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Number 1 on the agenda, 2021-2218 ZC. Mr. Jeff Shane is here to address the request for postponement.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Honorable Commission. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm at P.O. Box 1810 in Covington, and I represent the petitioner in this case. As indicated to you in the last few meetings, we have requested postponement because the people of Thelma Estates, or I should say the residents, not the people, but those that have an interest in this case, made a public records request of the parish wanting to see some data that occurred at prior zoning commission meetings of over 10 years ago. As of today, that data is still not available. Councilman Toledano is very aware of that and has asked that we try to postpone moving forward until everyone, meaning Councilman Toledano, the residents, and myself, see what data, if any, exist with regard to discussions about whether or not any of this property would ever be zoned I-2 in the future.
Okay. Normally it would be till our next meeting would be the postponement. Would you or your client have any objection to going at least 60 days?
No, sir, because obviously we have not had a good pulse as to when the public record request answer would be. I don't believe that, well, you can ask. I doubt that any of the residents are here this evening. There's certainly, we are communicating with them weekly and in concert as it relates to this delay. But if it's the will of the commission to postpone the case until August, I understand that.
Should it be maybe postponed indefinitely?
No, sir, I assume if it's postponed indefinitely, we would then have to, what do we have to do to get back on the agenda?
You'd have to make a request.
But how far in advance?
It would have to be requested, at least before the agenda is published. So more than likely, if you would like to be placed on the agenda for September, you would have to request at the end of July or beginning of.
Is that too far out, Mr. Shane?
Well, if that's what you prefer, I don't think beggars can be choosy, because I think I've postponed this 3 or 4 times. I'd like to roll it to August.
I just don't want the people to continually come out, and come out. But
Yes, sir, but I don't think would you sound the room?
is there anyone here on case 2021-2218, which is an A2 case requesting I-2? It's in the Alamosa Park subdivision. Anyone here on that case?
See, we've been
see no hands.
communicating with them from day one, and I send them emails to confirm that we're going to postpone it, and they know that Mr. Toledano has been in the middle of the discussion. But I mean, again, whatever the commission feels is appropriate.
Ross?
I guess as secretary of the commission and with the chairman, we can set the agenda. So, asking the question to legal, if we just postpone either indefinitely or month to month, if we postpone month to month and you contact me in advance to say, look, don't put it on the agenda, then we just don't put it on the agenda. And when you're ready to put it on the agenda, we'll put it on the agenda. And like Helen said, if we do, or if we can can we pull it from the agenda before the meeting, if it's advertised?
Yes, I mean, the only thing that's going to be required is that you do the 3 advertising and post the property and send the abutter notices prior to whatever agenda it's going to be set on.
So that's, a decent amount of work for staff just to
Right.
pull it off.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, the best way to do it, I'll defer to the commission, then whatever y'all come up with is fine with me.
And just to let you know, I know that our office has been working on this public records request. All of the documents that we have stored in our office or in our systems have been provided. The only part that we're still waiting on was certain email requests that have to go through our IT department. I believe that we're about 2 to 3 weeks out from getting all of those responses and having time to go through them. So just if that helps the commission with any kind of timelines.
Okay, let's go for 60 days.
Yes, sir, that's fine.
Okay, I mean, that
No, sir, that's fine.
gets it back. Okay, all right. Commissioner Seeger?
2-month postponement. I move for a 2-month postponement.
Okay. We have requests to postpone for 2 months. Commissioner Crawford?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Crawford, second. Let me read this into the record so that we have it in there. It's case 2021-2218-ZC. Existing zoning's A2 Suburban District. Proposed zoning is I2 Industrial District. Location, parcel located on the west side of Compass Way North, south, east, and west of Alamosa Park subdivision, being 27.291 acres, Mandeville, Ward 4, District 5. Petitioner's Jones Fusel LLP, Jeffrey Shane. The owner's Alamosa Holdings LLC, and a BQ Holdings LLC, Marjorie Hanise. Please vote.
The motion to postpone for 2 months carries.
Thank you. All right, staff, we got other ones apparently.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Number 3 on the agenda, 2021-2268 ZC, 2270 ZC, 2271 ZC, 2272 ZC, 2273, and 2274 ZC. And Mr. Paul Marone is here to address the request for postponement.
Good evening, Mr. Morone.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Paul Marone on behalf of Allstate Financial Company.
You'll recall that all these cases are part of the same submittal. They were postponed last month as we worked through the traffic impact analysis and the hydrological study with the staff. We have received comments back from engineering. I think it was about 2 weeks ago on the hydrological study. We're very close to being able to resubmit that. We think we should have that back to them probably, I would say, within a week from today, middle of next week. The traffic study, all of the counts have now been taken. The study is being compiled. That should be ready for submittal probably in the next week, week and a half. And all of those studies then will be in the parish staff's hands. We believe that the hydrological study will be completed at that point as we've had a round of comments and responses. We will have to have some response on the traffic study. The staff may have questions at that point, but we hope to have that in their hands within the next week to week and a half, in which case we hope to be in a position to come back before you next month in July with those studies in place and having been in place for those that would want to review them so that they can be presented and be part of the discussion that we might have on all these cases. So in that regard, we'd ask that the matter be tabled until your July meeting.
Okay, thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to speak against postponing? Please come forward and state your name and address.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jack Truitt. I live at 213 Inglewood Terrace in Terabella subdivision. I don't know that I necessarily rise to oppose the postponement. As you can probably tell from all the citizens that are in the crowd with white shirts on, this is a project of great magnitude that will impact numerous subdivisions. As we just saw with Mr. Shane's case, we think that a postponement for a longer period of time than 30 days would be appropriate in this case. I'll just ask any of you all who are opposed to this project in general and to a postponement for only 30 days, would you please stand? Or raise your right hand. Stand, that's fine, stand.
Just for 30 days or for more than 30?
Opposed to a 30 days.
You need to turn to the microphone.
Only a 30-day postponement is inadequate. As you can see from the number of people that are in attendance, they don't even have the hydrological study done yet.
That's correct.
They don't have the traffic study done, and there have been numerous PRRs, public records requests, that have been unfulfilled. I sent an email to the parish's council on Monday and asked for additional documents that were the subject of my PRR, and that has not yet been fulfilled, but I feel that would be very important. I'll just add this. I know Paul. I'm a practicing attorney. I have great respect for Paul. Paul, I reached out to him yesterday, or this morning actually, and asked if he would be opposed to a community meeting to discuss this project, because as you all well know, this project is on Bootlegger and bounded by Bricker. And the traffic there is horrendous. The flooding is horrendous. And I just think that for a project of this magnitude, with the impacts that it's going to have, a 30-day postponement is inadequate. And if Mr. Mayron, as he represented to me, is willing to have a community meeting to discuss with the Wayners this particular project, I think we would be able to achieve a lot more in terms of a consensus, because there is a piece of property on that, or tract on that property that can be developed for residential. So I don't think there's any doubt about that. And if that's the case, then that may well be developed as a residential project. But to suggest that we're going to have massive rezoning of this project, I simply think is inappropriate. And so for those reasons, I would ask that this commission consider a longer postponement than 30 days. And I would submit that because, you know, most people are going to be on vacation, that perhaps a September date would be the most appropriate, so that we can get all the data together, we can assimilate that, we can analyze it. We have an opportunity to have our own experts, and we also, as Mr. Mayron suggested to me earlier today and in the meeting, right before the meeting, have a discussion with the people, with the stakeholders that are involved in this project, are going to be impacted by this project. And so I think that that is probably the most prudent course of action for this commission. So with all due respect, I ask that this submission be considered in September rather than in July. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Morone? I have a tendency to agree with the gentleman,
Yeah,
Mr. Truitt.
The only thing I would add to that, I certainly don't have any objection to extending the postponement to 60 days till August. I don't respectfully think that we need to go till September. I think that there'll be ample time for us to have some of our meetings with Mr. Truitt and with some of the other residents. I think there'll be ample time to get the public records requests that they've filed and have those in, to get the traffic study and the hydrological study through the month of June. That'll give them all of July for that. I would ask that you all consider the 60 days rather than going all the way out to September. But obviously, we're, comply with whatever it is the will of the commission, but I think that 60 days would be adequate to fulfill all of the things that Mr. Truitt just mentioned.
Okay, all right. All right, come forward, state your name and address.
My name is Kenneth Thurman.
Get to the microphone, please.
My name is Kenneth Thurman. I live at 905 Tescuca Court in Terabella. I don't think 60 days is enough for us to get the information for the residents of the affected neighborhoods to have adequate discussions about this, and I think that 90 days is much more appropriate for that discussion. I also have I'm offended to some degree that they're going to, and even in his statements, he says that some residents. I would think that if we're going to have a community discussion, that should be open to everyone, to all the property owners that are affected by such a group of projects.
Okay, thank you. All right, is anyone else opposed to the postponing of 60 days? Please state your name and address.
Dwight Dosky, 33 Hyacinth, that's in Flowers Estates. On behalf of many of the residents in Flowers Estates, may I say that we also would ask for 90 days because certainly our review of the hydrological study is going to take a long time. Most of these are multiple hundreds of pages that are submitted. So even were we to acquire an expert and get those documents to the expert, we think that 90 days is more appropriate because we're also hoping that we do get that full community meeting for everybody to be able to give their input to the Wayners and to Allstate Financial and to Mr. Marone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
Hi, Henry Skiro from Willow Bend subdivision in Madisonville. We are a little bit upstream from this project, but we have been in contact with numerous engineers on the project, other things that are going on downstream that have affected our neighborhood and some other neighborhoods in the surrounding area. And I also am for the 90 days so that we could get some more information and just get everybody together on this, because there's a whole lot more than just the Terabella area or areas downstream from this. There's a lot of areas upstream that are being affected by this. Last May, we were completely flooded in because of the downpours that we had in our subdivision, and it was as a result of a lot of the drainage going downstream toward the Chifuncta right through this area that they're proposing to do all this building.
Okay, thank you.
What is your name, sir? I'm sorry, missed it.
Henry Skiro.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Neil Carey, 16355 Bricker Road in Covington. Speaking for the residents of Bricker Road, not too many of us, but we're here. We do support the 90-day extension and the community meetings.
Okay, thank you. All right, we've had a request initially by the developer for 30 days. I've let a number of people speak requesting 90 days. So I'm going to suggest to the commission that we go with the 60-day, and we have the opportunity. We have all these speaker cards. We can contact you if it needs to go out further. So I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Randolph.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make sure I'm clear before I put forth a suggestive motion. Item number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Are these the items that we're actually voting on?
These will be voted on separately.
Okay.
Okay, they have to be read into the record and then handled with a vote separately. We're not going to have any further discussion from the audience, okay?
Okay.
All
Okay.
right. And yes, it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8,
Okay.
okay?
All right. Well, Mr. Marone made a very good point concerning the preparation stage and trying to actually have all of the studies in place. We do have some concern, I have some concern also with this time of the year, and we've been blessed to not have to wear the mask, and some of us have been vaccinated, and people are going to be going on summer vacation. And I too agree with some of the residents that they need to be there in multitude to really have some say and some discussion and some dialogue in the community meetings. Because community meetings do work. They really do work. And what I'd like to suggest is make a motion that this item, specifically number 3, I can't really vote on the other 5, but 2021-2268-ZC be postponed for 90 days.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Randolph to postpone for 90 days. Commissioner Drum,
I second that motion.
second by Commissioner Drum. Commissioner Truxillo.
I just have a question for the staff. With all this data collection and everything, all the reviews and everything, timeline y'all think this should be?
We're good to 90 days.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to postpone.
The question is just for legal. Should the motion be till September meeting or 90 days?
Yeah, I'd prefer that you make it to the September meeting, just because those days actually shift.
Thank you for that clarification. Yes, and
Okay.
I made that friendly amendment
Till
to
September.
September.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's see, Commissioner Drum, you seconded the
Yes.
Yes, sir, I second it also for September.
okay, all right, thank you. All right, so, please vote.
The motion to postpone for 90 days carries.
All right, let me read this one into the record, because I failed to do that. This is 2021-2268 ZC, existing zonings PF2, Public Facilities District, and NC4, Neighborhood Institutional District. Proposed zoning is A4, Single Family Residential District. The location parcel located on the east side of Louisiana 1085 and south and west of Bricker Road, Covington, Ward 1, District 1. It's 18.66 acres. Petitioner and owner is Allstate Financial, and it's Council District 1. We just had the motion and voted on September postponement. All right, the next item,
Respectfully, may I ask a question? I don't know whether this commission has the power to actually order a community meeting or not, but we didn't hear anything about the community meeting, and many of us are wondering, is there a requirement of a community meeting? We would like there to be one, if there
no,
could be.
there's not a requirement, but generally, we would go along with the residents of an area and have a community meeting. Now, it's up to our staff to set a date on the community meeting.
Wait.
You're saying no.
All community meetings, that's between the developer and the community residents to set that up for themselves.
Okay?
So, Mr. Chairman, I guess what you're saying is you all would encourage that to happen, but I gather from staff and maybe from legal that you all don't believe you all have the power to order such a thing.
The commission does have the authority to call a community meeting by the chairman, but it's up to the commission whether they want to call that community meeting or not. But it always can take place between the developer and the community without the commission getting involved.
Okay, then I guess my question was, is this commission at this point getting involved?
And
I don't
just-
think we are right now. I mean, you're going to have a number of people at this meeting, I'm sure, based on what I see right here in the chambers, and there's probably more people outside. Okay? So there's got to be, y'all have got to come up with a place large enough to handle the number of people, okay? And I don't think it's necessary that we have some commissioners there. Helen?
Should the commission would like to request a date in this room, the third Tuesday of the month is reserved for a community meeting in this chamber. Should the commission would like to set one either in June or July?
So we can help coordinate that as a place, as a meeting.
Right.
But I think the issue right now would be if we tried to set that date to the point of majority of the people in the room, we don't have the data yet to address the concerns. So until we have that available, it'd be premature to try to set an arbitrary date and guess that we might have some of the information.
No.
So I think it'd be better if we let the information come to us and then we can select a date for a community meeting.
And I can understand that, and I gather that either side, if the data has not been obtained, if community meeting hasn't actually occurred, either side can request a postponement then from even the September date.
Correct.
If that hasn't happened. Okay, thank you. I
Correct.
just wanted to make sure that we keep the lines of communication open so we can let you all know what's going on.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. See, the next one is 2021-2270-ZC. Existing zoning is A6, multifamily residential. Proposed zoning is PBC1, planned business campus. Location parcel located on the east side of Highway 1085 and south and west of Bricker Road, Covington. Ward 1, District 1, it's 14.87 acres. The petitioner and owner is Allstate Financial, Council District 1. All right, Commissioner Drum.
Yes, sir, I make a motion that we postpone till September. But may I have a side note, please?
Okay.
You folks have absolutely no idea how proud I am of you. You have taken it upon yourselves as responsible citizens to voice your opinions, and we do hear it up here. And there are a lot of places where people just bow down like sheep and go on. You're not doing that. And I'm very proud of you, and I'm glad I was in the military to let you do it.
Commissioner Fitzwater.
Second the motion to postpone until September.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to postpone until the September meeting. Please vote.
The motion to postpone to the September meeting carries.
Okay, thank you. All right, next item is 2021-2271-ZC. Existing zoning is PF2, Public Facilities District, NC4, Neighborhood Institutional District, and A6, Multifamily Residential District. Proposed zoning is PBC1, Planned Business Campus. Location, the parcel located on the east side of Highway 1085 and south and west of Bricker Road, Covington, Ward 1, District 1. It's 20.44 acres. The petitioner and owner is Allstate Financial, Council District 1. Commissioner Randolph.
Yes, sir. I make a motion that we postpone until September meeting.
We have a motion by Commissioner Randolph to postpone until September. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Please vote.
The motion to postpone to September carries.
Thank you. All right, next item is 2021-2272, ZC, existing zonings, PF2, Public Facilities District, and NC4, Neighborhood Institutional District. Proposed zoning is PBC1, Planned Business Campus. Location, parcel located on the east side of Highway 1085 and south and west of Bricker Road, Covington, Ward 1, District 1. It's 15.46 acres. Petitioner and owner is Allstate Financial, Council District 1. Commissioner Seeger.
Move to postpone until September.
Motion by Commissioner Seeger to postpone till the September meeting. Commissioner Truxillo.
I second.
Second by Commissioner Truxillo. Please vote.
The motion to postpone to September carries.
Thank you. Next item is 2021-2273-ZC. Existing zoning's A2 Suburban District. Proposed zoning is A4 Single-Family Residential. Location, parcel located on the east side of Highway 1085 and south and west of Bricker Road, Covington, Ward 1, District 1. It's 30.78 acres. Petitioner and owner is Allstate Financial, Council District 1. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Motion to postpone to the September meeting.
Motion by Commissioner Fitzmaurice to postpone until September meeting. Commissioner Randolph.
A second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Please vote.
The motion to postpone to September carries.
Thank you. All right, the next item is 2021-2274, ZC. Existing zoning is PBC1, Planned Business Campus, and A4 Single Family Residential District. Proposed zoning is PBC1, Planned Business Campus, A4 Single Family Residential District, and PUD, Planned Unit Development District. Location, parcel located on the east side of Highway 1085 and south and west of Bricker Road, Covington, Ward 1, District 1. It's 160.44 acres. The petitioner and owner is Allstate Financial, Council District 1. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Motion to postpone to the September zoning meeting.
Motion by Commissioner Fitzmaurice to postpone until the September meeting. Commissioner Barcelona.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Barcelona. Please vote.
The motion to postpone to September carries.
Thank you. Staff, is there any other items to be postponed?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Number 10 on the agenda, 2021-2335 ZC. Mr. Jeff Shane is here to make the request.
Mr. Shane.
Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm at P.O. Box 1810 in Covington. I represent the petitioner, Mr. Steele McDaniel. I was only retained in this case around 3 weeks ago, and when I was retained, I soon spoke with the Councilman Fitzgerald, who said he received numerous calls from constituents in the district, and he had some questions that he wanted us to resolve. So my client is in the process of gathering more information and doing some due diligence so that we can provide that information. Obviously, we don't have that information this evening. This is the first time that the case has come before you. We would respectfully request that it be postponed until your July meeting. We do believe that we will have the data in place by then to share with all.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shane. Anyone in the audience opposed to this postponement? This is the existing zoning's NC4, Neighborhood and Institutional District. Proposed zoning is A8, multifamily residential. Location parcel located on the south and north 3rd Street, west of Harrison Avenue, being Square 64, Town of Mileyville. subdivision, Covington. It's 1.32 acres. Petitioner Steele McDaniel, owner is Welsh Properties Limited Partnership, B.L. Bryant, Council District 2. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Marcy Miller, and I own a little over 60 acres right there on the corner of Sunshine and Harrison and 3rd Street. And I also own, I think it's 6 or 7 more lots that go all the way up to 3rd Street and Harrison. I've been here before. I am trying.
You're opposing
I'm opposing this.
the
I'm opposing the continuance of it.
Okay.
Yes.
Postponement?
The postponement, yes. It is, we have a lot, it's all residential around there, single-family homes. And there is what I feel is a proper zoning that is right there. It's an area we're trying to bring it up and not bring it down and depreciate the single-family homes, which you'll see. That's all that is there around it. I'm off of 190. And I've been paying a lot of property taxes for years and years and years on this property. And I intend to make it a better place, but I was here opposing the trailer, the time that the trailer was going to go in there. And also, I'm just opposing, I don't understand why we would have to continue this, because I don't understand why there's a need for what they want to do there.
Well, in this case, the attorney was just hired 3 weeks ago. He has to have time to prepare a presentation and everything. I personally don't have a problem to postponing it to July. So is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to oppose the postponing of this case until July?
Well, my problem is, too, I will probably be out of town, so I guess I'll have to hire an attorney to come and represent me, because it is the summer. Y'all were just
That'll be
speaking
between
about
you
that.
and Mr. Shane, probably. You know who he is, and I'm sure he'll be willing to have a discussion with you. Okay, there's a gentleman behind you that wishes to speak.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
My name is Don Grossnickel, 20180 River Park Drive, River Park Estates. I'm the Vice President of the River Park Estates Homeowners Association. Our entire homeowners association is opposed to the project and opposed to the continuance of this.
Okay.
We have 30 small lots, the smallest one being 1 acre. We're behind all of Alpine. No lot is less than an acre. Most of them much more than an acre. They also have Oak River, all well over 1 acre, single dwelling homes. To allow this piece of property, 240 feet by 240 feet, to turn it into an apartment complex is only going to open up both sides to the same thing.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I heard that you're opposing the continuance.
Can you fill out a speaker card, sir, please?
Yes, sir.
My name is Eugene Young. I live at 19406 Sunshine Avenue. I'm opposed to this postponement and also opposed to the proposal of putting apartments.
All we're going to talk about right now is the postponement.
Okay, well, anyway, the parcel of land in question is about the same size as my lot. We moved there because we like the neighborhood, we like the idea of having large single-family, single-dwelling lots. And if this goes through and they're allowed to build what they intended to build, it's a matter of time before then they're going to want to buy the lot next door and more and more. We have enough traffic and noise as it is.
Okay. I've heard you. Thank
I need
you.
a speaker card, sir.
Aaron, help him there. All right. Anyone else wish to speak in opposition of postponing? Seeing no one, I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Okay, motion by Commissioner Fitzmaurice to postpone until the July meeting. Commissioner Crawford.
I second the motion.
Second by Commissioner Crawford. Please vote.
The motion to postpone to July carries.
Thank you. Staff, we have any more?
Yes, we have items 16 and 17 on the agenda, which is 2021-2354 ZC and 2021-2355 ZC. Mr. Jeff Shane is here representing the owner to request a postponement.
Okay. You're a busy fellow tonight.
Yes, sir. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm, P.O. Box 1810 in Covington. I represent the owner and petitioner, Honeybee Holdings LLC. This, of course, is the first time that this case comes before you. It is a significant development in many respects. We have been working with the councilman for 4 to 6 months with regard to potential development of this property and have met with him as recently as about 10 days ago. He has requested that we make some significant changes, revisions, and consider some options. We have agreed to do that, which requires us to amend our application, which we're not in a position to do tonight because the work is not complete. I don't think that we would be ready for you in July, and I would hope we'd be ready for August, but we have not completed our revisions. They have not been submitted to staff. I realize then they have to go to you. So I think we're sort of at your pleasure as it relates to whether this becomes an August or September postponement. But I think it would be in everyone's best interest to postpone it so that we can revise and refine the product and share it with those that have an interest, in, meaning the general public. I don't mean only wait to present it to you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shane. All right. Is there anyone in the audience that opposes postponing these two items? Come forward, state your name and address, please.
Name is Donald L. Morgan, 322045 West Parker Road, Slidell. On behalf of all the current residents of Honeybee Road, as well as the heirs and the descendants, we vehemently oppose the construction that's being proposed.
We're just talking about the postponement.
Okay. Well, we're fine with the postponement.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on opposing the postponement? Seeing no one, I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Seeger.
In regards to case 2021-2354 ZC, I move that it be postponed until September.
September postponement, okay. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Let me read it into the record. It's 2021-2354 ZC. Existing zoning is TND2, Traditional Neighborhood Development Zoning District. Proposed zoning is A4A, Single Family Residential District. Location partial located on the east and west side of Honeybee Road, north of US Highway 190, Slidell, Ward 9, District 11. It's 275.33 acres. The petitioner's George Kurtz. Owner is Honeybee Holdings LLC, Council District 11. Please vote on the motion to postpone until September.
The motion. The motion to postpone to September carries.
For the Dixie Ranch Honeybee Road area on the postponement?
Yes.
Mr. Randolph, could we ask for them to submit to us a study, the developers? because that's the Bogachuda.
There's still a lot of information that they're putting together. The councilman has suggested some changes, so whatever you would get now may be changed, so.
Okay, but would they submit to us, the Bogachuda?
Have you turned in a speaker card?
I can give it to you. My name is Chief Elvin Mohorst Gillum. I'll turn it in. But we do need those, we need to know what's going on with the water area there.
Okay. Turn in a speaker card and you'll be notified.
I sure will.
Okay. All right, the next item is 2021-2355-ZC. Existing zoning is A4A Single Family Residential District. Proposed zoning is A4A Single Family Residential District and PUD Planned Unit Development District. Location parcel located on the east and west sides of Honeybee Road, north of US Highway 190, Slidell, Ward 9, District 11. It's 275.33 acres. Petitioner is George Kurtz. The owner is Honeybee Holdings LLC, Council District 11. Commissioner Seeger.
Move to postpone until September.
Motion by Commissioner Seeger to postpone until September. Commissioner Fitzmars.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fitzmars. Please vote.
The motion to postpone to September carries.
Thank you. Staff? No other items?
Who's didn't?
What was the comment?
Phillips didn't show up on the screen.
Oh,
but
okay.
He's
All right.
approving the postponement.
Okay, and staff, that's all the postponements?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, let me go back and. All right, we're gonna go back on the agenda to item 2. That's the one that just postponed.
16 and 17.
We have a request through staff to move forward 2021-2353 ZC, which is item 15. And I'm guessing Salvatore Impasto is the petitioner, is the one asking for it to be moved up, or is it Joe? Joe, okay. We'll go ahead and move that up. Let me read it into the record, and then we'll go forward. Okay? Existing zoning on this is NC1 Professional Office District. Proposed zoning is NC2 Indoor Retail and Service District and RO Rural Overlay. Parcel located on the southwest corner of US Highway 190 and South Oaklawn Drive, being part of tracks 342 and 343, North Oaklawn Subdivision, Lacombe, Ward 7, District 7. It's 1.2 acres, and the petitioner is Salvatore Impasto, and owner is Joe Impasto, Council District 7. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Joe Impostata, and this is my son, Sal Impostata. The owner is my dad. It's a different Sal. This is pretty non-controversial, I believe. Fellow resident and business person, Vincent Williams, is going to do a project on the property that required a minor intensification. So he's going to have a business that sells dirt by the scoop, gravel, limestone, et cetera. And in order to do that, he had to go from the in the current zoning, which is the NC1 to the NC2. I don't believe there's any opposition. My business is located very close to it. I also live probably about a couple of blocks from it. So I think it's a very reasonable request, and it'll be a good opportunity for the community to get this kind of business.
Okay.
If you have any questions, please let me know.
All right, thank you, Joe. All right, is there anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor or against on this item? Seeing no one, I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Crawford.
Just a question for legal. Do they have to vote on moving that up on the agenda?
Yes, they should vote to move it up.
Okay. All
It
right.
hasn't happened yet.
Commissioner Crawford, I'm looking for a motion to move this up on the agenda.
I'll make a motion to move this up on the agenda to the next case.
Okay, Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Second.
All right, please vote on moving it up.
Motion to move up case 2353 carries.
Okay. Clear. All right. Now, Commissioner Crawford.
I'll make a motion to approve. I'm familiar with this, and I think it's appropriate.
All right, motion by Commissioner Crawford to approve. Commissioner Seeger.
Sal, thanks for coming out. Young Salvador, thank you. This is part of the process, and you're getting a good dose of it tonight. I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Thank you all. Have a
Thank
good
you all.
evening.
Appreciate it. All right, we're going to go back on the agenda one more time. It's item 2, 2021-2286-ZC, existing zoning's HC2 Highway Commercial District. Proposed zoning is HC3 Highway Commercial District. Location, parcel located on the west side of North Causeway Boulevard, south of Louisiana Highway 22, Ward 4, District 10. It's 9.059 acres. Petitioners, BB Mini Storage LLC, Matthew Bennett, and the owner is also BB Mini Storage LLC, Matthew Bennett. Council District 10. Staff?
The purpose of the HC2 Highway Commercial District is to allow for moderately scaled retail uses with a maximum building size of 40,000 square feet. The purpose of the requested HC3 Highway Commercial Zoning designation is to allow for large-scale heavy commercial, retail, office, and service uses with a maximum building size of 250,000 square feet. The subject property is currently developed with a self-storage facility, and while this use is permitted within the existing HC2 Highway Commercial District, the applicant would like to increase the size of the buildings. The site is adjacent to residential uses to the west, commercial and residential uses to the north and south, and commercial uses to the east. The subject site is also entirely surrounded by property that is located within the city limits of Mandeville. The requested HC3 district will create an increase in the intensity of allowable uses on the subject site.
Thank you. Mr. Marone.
Thank you,
Good
Mr. Daugherty. Members of the commission, Paul Marone on behalf of BB Mini Storage LLC. This is a companion case, you'll recall, that came before you back in April that we tabled. The case at Wisteria, at that point, we moved forward with. That case has now gone through the process and has been resolved, and we were able to work things out with the residents that were living near there, and ultimately came to an agreement, and everybody was comfortable moving forward with it. Since April, we have been in discussions with the Fontainebleau Property Owners Association, which is the property to the rear of this site. We were sidetracked there a little while, so we had to request a tabling again last month. But we've been in a lot of discussions about some of the issues and some of the concerns, And I'm pleased to report that we've reached a consensus with them. As a result of that, I'm going to request or I'm going to amend my request this evening from the HC3 to HC2A for the entire site in order to allay some of the concerns that Fontainebleau had with some of the potential uses and some of the intensity that the HC3 brought to the area. As you will recall from the case in April, this is all about the Bennett brothers trying to make these facilities consistent with what the market is asking for today. As I mentioned back in April, what used to be the market in our area, which is the single-story, non-climate controlled facilities, is not the case anymore. So there has been a change in that industry, and that has necessitated a change from the Bennett brothers to make sure that their facilities are consistent and compatible with what the market is looking for. So we've been working in an effort to try a way to do that, to accomplish what we need to do to be able to meet those market demands, but also to try to get something that's reasonably palatable to the residents that are adjacent to us, and I believe that we've done that. So with that said, I would officially request that tonight you consider rezoning this entire tract to HC2A as opposed to the HC3. I would also like to read into the record just a few of the commitments that my client has made to Fontainebleau. One of the Fontainebleau Property Owners Association representatives is here this evening, and I think she will want to get up and make sure that what I've said is accurate, but also perhaps concur with our commitments. The first is that back in 2011, when this property was originally zoned, we worked out some deed restrictions on the property with the Fontainebleau Homeowners Association. And those deed restrictions will remain in place. We've committed to them that they will not be modified, except that there was a loophole dealing with lodging. And in those deed restrictions, it says that no lodging 100 rooms or less will be allowed. HC2A allows lodging over that amount. And so it potentially created an issue where we could not have lodging at 100 rooms, but we could have it at 150, which was not our intent. So the deed restrictions will stay in place, but we will clean up that item so that lodging is prohibited. We've also agreed to plant an additional row of trees in the buffer along the rear of our property. We'd be willing to plant a row of trees on the property owner's side if they would allow us to do that as well. We will construct a new wooden fence along the rear of the property line with Fontainebleau. The existing lights on the end caps of the buildings, on the existing buildings that abut Fontainebleau, my client was shown some pictures in a meeting that quite frankly he was embarrassed about. Those lights have already been disconnected and will no longer be in use. We've committed to them that we will have on these new buildings no more than 2 lights. All will be no higher than 9 feet, and they'll be directed downward, not into the subdivision adjacent to us. Also, it is our intent to utilize the existing drives in the property, which means that the intent with this redevelopment is that the perimeter buildings will remain in place. We're not waiving our right to do anything different with those buildings in the future, and we may modify them somewhat for boats or RVs, but our intent is to leave those perimeter buildings. As a result of that, we also committed to them that these new buildings that we intend to construct would be approximately 106 feet from the property line. It's 106, 108. We've kind of gone back and forth with our measurements, but we're all comfortable that it's going to be in that range, and we have made them aware of that, and we at least wanted to put all of those commitments that we've made on the record this evening, not so much for your consideration, but mainly just to be clear with the Property Owners Association so that we're all on the same page as we move forward. With that being said, we would respectfully request approval of our amended rezoning request to the HC2A, abandoning the proposed HC3, and I'll yield my time to Ms. Janet in the event she has any additional comments, and I'll be happy to answer any questions should the Commission have it at the appropriate time.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Yes, ma'am, good evening. We got a speaker card from you.
Good evening. Janet Smith. I'm at 1164 Rochenon in Mandeville. Thank you to the Commission. Thank you to Mr. Marone and Mr. Bennett for lots of discussions and lots of emails. I'm here representing the board of the Fontainebleau Property Owners Association. We've got 244 homes and a lot more than approximately 500 residents in that area, and so we do appreciate all the conversations and the discussions we've had. So at this time, the association does not oppose Mr. Bennett's request to rezone this property from HC2 to HC2A based on the agreements that we've reached between our two attorneys. And I thank you.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak in favor of this proposed rezoning? Anyone wish to speak against? I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Motion to approve as amended.
Motion by Commissioner Fitzmaurice to approve as amended. Commissioner Randolph.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Commissioner McInnes.
I just wanted to say I appreciate when citizens get together with the applicant and work it out pretty much before you get here.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Commissioner Randolph.
Mr. Chair, do we have to mention anything in the motion concerning the additional items that Mr. Marone? Okay.
I don't think there's a need to.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, just a question. Thank you.
Okay, he's just changing the request from a HC3 to HC2A. That's the bottom line on it. You cool with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I'm cool.
All right, good deal. No further discussion, please vote.
The motion to approve as amended to HC2A carries.
Thank you. All right. We will go to item number 9, which is 2021-2323ZC. Existing zoning is A4 Single Family Residential District and NC4 Neighborhood Institutional District. Proposed zoning is A4 Single Family Residential District and Manufactured Housing Overlay. Location parcel located on the south side of Violet Street, east of Rose Street, being lots 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, square 24, West Abita Springs subdivision, Abita Springs, Ward 10, District 2. It's .35 acres. The petitioner's Sabrina Barnes, and the owner is Carrie Barnes. Staff?
The subject property is currently undeveloped and located within an existing residential neighborhood. There's no manufactured housing overlay in the immediate vicinity. However, the area is developed with both stick-built and manufactured homes.
Thank you. Sabrina Barnes or Carrie Barnes? Come forward, please. Good
Hello,
evening.
I'm Sabrina Barnes. The owner is my husband, Kerry Barnes.
Okay.
We're trying to get a mobile home onto the property before like August. There's other mobile homes and trailers in the neighborhood. It's a trailer across the street, so I doubt any neighbors have a problem with it.
All right. Thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of this zoning change? Seeing no one, anyone in the audience wish to speak against? All right, I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Crawford.
I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Crawford to approve. Commissioner Randolph.
A second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Thank you. Next item is 2021-2336-ZC. Existing zoning is HC2 Highway Commercial District. Proposed zoning is I2 Industrial District. Parcel located on the southwest corner of Louisiana Highway 59 and Marion Lane, north of Coop Drive. Mandeville, Ward 4, District 5. It's 6.094 acres. The petitioner's Leon Lacardi, and the owner is Lacardi Highway 59 LLC, Council District 5. Staff?
The purpose of the existing HC2 Highway Commercial District is to provide for the location of moderately scaled, intense retail, office, and service uses generally located along major collectors and arterials. The purpose of the requested I-2 Industrial District is to allow for the location of large-scale and highly intense industrial uses located along major collectors and arterials. The subject property is undeveloped and abuts Highway 59 to the east, undeveloped property that is zoned I-2 to the south, and industrial and commercial uses to the west and north. The reason for the request is to accommodate a proposed office warehouse.
Thank you. Mr. Maroon?
Thank you, Mr. Daugherty, members of the commission. Paul Maroon, one last time this evening. Representing Mr. Lashardi and Lashardi Highway 59 LLC. This property, which is actually right next door to where we are this evening, was actually zoned M2, which was the similar designation to I-2 under the prior zoning code. And it was consistent with the zoning of Alamosa Park for many, many years, even though it was not actually part of Alamosa Park. I've appeared before the commission, well, it was before the UDC was adopted, I believe, and requested it to be rezoned at that time with the belief that there was some other HC2 uses in the area and that it would be more likely utilized as an HC2. So fast forward now to 2021, the property has been for sale, and we have a prospective user that is ready to buy for a proposed office warehouse, but it doesn't fit in HC2. So we are requesting to go back to what it was previously, which is the I-2. If you look at your zoning map, you will see that that there is a great deal of I-2 in and around it. All of Alamosa and up and down Highway 59 in this area, there's multitudes of I-2. So we believe it's appropriate, it's compatible, and fits with the area. And we would respectfully request your approval of the I-2 for this particular tract, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that any of the commissioners might have.
Thank you, Mr. Maroon.
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor on this item? Anyone wish to speak against? I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Seeger.
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Seeger to approve. Commissioner Truxillo.
I second.
Second by Commissioner Truxillo. Commissioner McInnes.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just looking at the hydric soils maps for our area here, and it showed this site is basically 100% wet. It doesn't look that way when you drive by.
Right, right.
So I'm just curious because I assume it's part of the watershed that flows south, and we have a lot of flooding just immediately south of here. So just curious.
Yeah, to the best of our knowledge, and I'm looking at the part, we're not aware that there are any jurisdictional wetlands on the site.
There was 3 acres of wetland
Sure.
that's been mitigated years ago.
There were 3 acres originally that were mitigated many years ago.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, seeing no one else in the queue, we have a motion and a second to approve. Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Thank you. All right, next item is 2021-2341-ZC. Existing zoning is A2 Suburban District. Proposed zoning is A2 Suburban District and MHO, Manufactured Housing Overlay. Parcel located on the west side of Deer Haven Drive and on the north side of Whitetail Street, being Lot 17 Deer Haven subdivision, Lacombe, Ward 6, District 11. It's 2.467 acres. Petitioner is Dion Labat, and the owner is Dion Labat, Council District 11. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan designates the site to be developed with residential dwellings that vary in site design and density. The subject property is flanked on all sides by property that is zoned A2 Suburban District. There are no sites within the Deer Haven subdivision that have been rezoned to accommodate the MHO manufactured housing overlay. The site is surrounded by a mixture of stick-built homes and mobile homes.
Thank you. Are the Labats in the audience? Yes, ma'am. Come forward. Good evening.
Dion Labat.
How are you tonight?
Good.
Good. So you're just wanting to add a manufactured housing overlay so that you can put a trailer on this property?
Yeah, put a manufactured home on
Right.
the property.
Okay. All right. Let's see if there's anyone else who wants to speak in favor or against on this item. Seeing no one, I'll close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Crawford.
I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Crawford to approve. Commissioner Randolph.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Randolph. Commissioner McInnes.
Yes, I just wanted to make a point to Ms. Labatt that that site's kind of pretty wet towards the back, isn't it?
Yeah, on the side, I would say like the quarter part of the acre, yeah.
Okay. I think elevated manufactured housing
Yeah.
would be appropriate.
They're gonna elevate
I'd put
it.
it very, very high, just in case.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Not seeing anyone else in the queue. And we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. All right, next item is 2021-2347-ZC. Existing zoning is A1 Suburban District, proposed zoning is A3 Suburban District, and MHO Manufactured Housing Overlay. Parcel located on the north side of Joe Ellen Drive, east of House Creek Road, Bush, Ward 2, District 6. It's 1.21 acres. Petitioner is Cherry Sturmer and Delton Sharp, and the owner is Cherry Sturmer and Delton Sharp. Council District 6. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan designates the site to be developed with rural, residential, and agricultural uses. The subject property is developed with an existing residential dwelling and is flanked on all sides by property that is zoned A1 Suburban District. The existing A1 Suburban District allows one residential dwelling per every 5 acres. The requested A3 Suburban District allows 2 residential dwellings per acre. The purpose of the MHO manufactured housing overlay is to allow for the placement of mobile homes. There is currently no property along Joe Ellen Drive that is zoned to accommodate mobile homes. The reason for the request is so that the property owner can apply to place a mobile home on the 1.21 acre property.
There you go. Sterner or Sharp? Either one here this evening? You come to the podium, state your name, and explain the reason for your request, please.
Delton Sharp. And they ain't nothing but mobile homes on Joe Ellen Drive. Other than the very beginning, my daughter has a brick home.
Okay. All right, that's it. We'll see you.
Okay.
There you go. Is anybody in the audience in favor of the request? Anyone opposed? Seeing none, I bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Willie.
Yeah, what Mr. Sharp explained is he's absolutely correct. I move for approval.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Willie. Commissioner Truxillo.
I second.
Second by Commissioner Truxillo. Commissioner McGinnis.
Mr. Sharp, what's on the property now?
Come to the podium, please.
Mobile home.
So is this just trying to get the zoning to match what's actually there?
I'm sorry.
Or maybe staff could help?
If I'm not
Maybe
mistaken,
the wife can help. I don't know about staff.
sir, if I'm not mistaken, are you trying to add a second mobile home to the property?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
our grandson would like to put his we have other acreage, but this one particular is 1.2 something of an acre, and he would like to be by his father, so we had to rezone it to get him by his father.
So it's,
There's an existing mobile home on the property right now, and they would like to add another one.
Right.
And to achieve the request, and they would have to rezone to A3, which would allow them to have 2 residences on 1.21 acres.
okay, thank you.
We have a first and a second. Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Mr. Chairman? Would the commission consider pulling up item 18, 2021-2356 ZC on the agenda? If I'm not mistaken, the 2 items left are the text change, and then the last one is a zoning change that is sponsored by St. Tammany Parish government. And maybe we can handle this item first and then handle the text change after. Item 18, 2021-2356 ZC.
Okay, let's see if we can get a motion and a second to move that item up. All right, it's 2021-2356 ZC. Existing zoning is HC2 Highway Commercial District. Proposed zoning is A6 Multifamily Residential. Parcel located on the south east side of Shady Pine Road, north of US 190, Lacombe, Ward 7, District 7. It's 0.6 acres. Petitioner is Elisa Bingham Halliburton, and owner is Elisa Bingham Halliburton and Desiree Wright. We have a request to move this item up. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
I'll make a motion to make this the next item on the agenda.
Okay, Commissioner Crawford.
Second that.
Second by Commissioner Crawford. Please vote.
The request to move up item 2356 carries.
Okay. So I've read it into the record. It's moved up. Are the Halliburtons, somebody here representing them?
Mr. Chairman, staff would like to make the comments, please.
Okay.
The subject property is currently developed with an existing manufactured home and is flanked by both commercial and residential uses. The property north of the petition site is zoned A2 and is developed with existing residential dwellings. The purpose of the existing HC2 Highway Commercial District is to provide for the location of moderately scaled retail, office, and service uses, generally located along major collectors and arterials. The purpose of the requested A6 multiple family residential district is to provide medium-density residential development in an urbanized location where it may serve as a transitional district between less intense commercial or industrial environments. The requested A6 district may serve as an appropriate buffer between adjacent commercial zoning classifications and the residential zoning to the north and east of the subject property. However, staff sees no compelling reason to recommend approval of the request due to the fact that the HC2 district allows multifamily residential uses.
Okay, thank you. The Halliburtons, you raised your hand. Would you like to come up to the mic, please? And you are Halliburton or Wright?
I'm right.
Okay.
I never did this before, so.
Well, there's a first time for
I
everything,
don't
so.
know.
All right, did you understand what the staff was saying? Okay.
sir.
All right, you've requested, to change the zoning from HC2 to A6.
Yes, sir.
Okay, for multifamily. In the HC2 zoning, you can have multifamily, so really, what staff is saying and what I'm saying is there's no need to change it to A6.
Okay,
Okay? So based on that, would you like to withdraw this item?
yes, sir.
Okay? All right, staff?
Maybe we can ask the petitioner what's the goal or the reason for the request?
Okay? What's the reason for the request wanting to go to multifamily?
Just to build a fourplex. I mean, I didn't know if it had, because I know it's commercial, so I didn't know if it had to be residential to do that. But basically, y'all saying that it don't really have to be,
The HC2, that the current zoning that you have allows you to build a fourplex.
Okay.
You will still be subject to all the commercial requirements and building code and everything.
Okay.
But it would allow you to do so, yeah.
okay. Thank y'all so much.
Okay, and we need to have this withdrawn?
Yeah, she welcome to withdraw her case, yes.
Okay, all right. So we will withdraw this from the agenda. And thank you, and let me go through that process, and we'll get this done. We'll close it to the,
Yeah, because I don't,
pardon?
okay, because I don't know what I'm doing. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for your help.
We have some questions? Okay, Commissioner Crawford.
I'll defer to Bernie.
Pardon?
He's deferring his time to Commissioner Wood.
Okay. Commissioner Willie.
Yeah, I just have a question of staff regarding this. The density of the A6, is it the same as HC2? The density that would allow multifamily?
Well, they will be subject to pretty much the same.
So if the density could be the same as an A6 as compared to the,
I mean, we
the
could
uses
calculate it
allowed.
quickly. It's 1.21 acres. It will be pretty much similar.
it'd be similar?
Yes.
Now, just because of that land size, but when it comes to other land sizes, it could possibly be different.
Yes, more than
Okay,
likely,
all right,
yes.
thank you.
Commissioner Rest.
Yeah, I got a question. Are the requirements for them to build more stringent if they stay HC2 versus go to A6?
No, it will be the same building code requirements, also the same setback requirements, they'll be required to meet the required number of parking spaces. I'll be happy to calculate for you exactly. Of course, this is not taking into consideration the requirements for setback, but let me pull it up here. So under the A6 multifamily, it allows for one unit per 4,000 square feet. It would allow for 13 units. But, I mean, you couldn't fit 13 units on this 1.21 acres due to the fact that, I mean, you have the setback requirements and, they will have to provide for drainage requirements and parking. So obviously, more than likely, you're not going to have 13 units. The HC2 could potentially allow for something similar. Of course, you can go, they can be stacked.
That answer your question, Ken?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, Commissioner Crawford.
Okay, I just wanted to get straight. Do we need to make a motion to remove this, or where are we?
I would suggest that we make a motion to have it removed
Okay.
at the petitioner's request, right?
Okay. Then I'll make a motion to remove this. Is that the proper wording? Remove this from the agenda at the petitioner's request?
Okay. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Please vote.
The motion to withdraw at the petitioner's request carries.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Once she puts, is she abutting residential?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, she's abutting 2 streets.
Catch back up here. So we did 2347.
Yes. Aaron. She's gonna have.
Okay. All right.
This is probably
Next item
Parish. So she's gonna.
is
have
item 14, which is 2021-2348-ZC.
So.
It's a text change and ordinance to amend and reenact
Yeah, so
the St.
she should
Tammany
have
Parish
plenty
Code of Ordinances, Chapter 22 Permits, and Chapter 130 Unified Development Code to provide definition and regulations regarding short-term rentals to promote the health, safety, and general welfare and consistency with the comprehensive plan by establishing where short-term rental is appropriate, to add short-term rentals as a permitted use in certain commercial and mixed-use zoning districts within unincorporated St. Tammany Parish, and to provide for permitting of short-term rentals and penalties and fines for violation. Staff?
Mr. Chairman, this is a text change to the Code of Ordinances as you just read. And as far as short-term rental, the definition means a dwelling unit, whether single-family or multifamily, rented for a period of less than 30 days. Short-term rent, is it on? Short-term rental, means and includes any establishment or person engaged in the business of furnishing one or more sleeping rooms, cottages, cabins, or any other similar lodging to transient guests in a location, including but not limited to a house, apartment, condominium, camp, cabin, or other building structure used as a residence.
Okay.
Hold on. The proposed zoning classifications for short-term rental include NC3, Lodging District, NC4, Neighborhood Institutional District, NC5, Retail and Service District, NC6, Public and Cultural and Recreational District, HC1, Highway Commercial District, HC2, Highway Commercial District, HC2A, Highway Commercial District, HC3, Highway Commercial District, HC4, Highway Commercial District, HC5, Highway Commercial District, and T&D, Neighborhood Development District, and T&D2, Traditional Neighborhood Development District.
My name is Patsy Wallace, and on this 2021-2348 Z3, what is your definition for short-term? Does that include Airbnb? Because I have them moved in my neighborhood, which is a resident. We don't know who's coming in and out. So could you give me the definition of the short-term rental?
Pardon?
Have you called for support and opposition so we get time?
No.
Yeah, let's make sure
Okay.
we have time.
Are you in favor or against?
I do not, I just want the definition of short-term rental and Airbnb. Airbnb is advertised and they're moving into residential areas.
Okay, let me refer your question to legal, and we'll go from there.
We just read the definition, and I think that it would encompass what you would consider to be an Airbnb. And it sounds like if you're against those Airbnbs in your residential area, you're probably in favor. I can't guess whether you're in favor or opposed to this, but we need to conduct this meeting according to our order of business. So we need to call for those in favor of the text chain first, so we can hear those people in favor for the 10 minutes, and then do opposition, and then have the 5-minute rebuttal. So if we can have the chairman call for those in favor of the text chain, so we
Okay.
can start the meeting clock.
All right, and we'll come back to you in just a minute. All right, anyone in favor of the short-term rental? I've got some cards up here. Fred Spolanaski? In favor of it, yes.
In favor of the short, in favor of the ordinance.
That's correct.
I'm sorry, I'm really confused on what's
Pardon?
in favor of, I'm not really understanding, even when I saw on the card, it said I'm in favor or I am opposed to what? I didn't know there was language that already existed that we were in favor of or opposing. It seems like there's a term change that we're looking for. So I would rather withhold my comments until I've heard a couple other people talk, because right now I feel like I'm out of my element. I don't even know what we're talking about.
Well,
So basically, this is a text change. This would change the ordinances. Right now, short-term rentals are not permitted anywhere in St. Tammany Parish. So this would change the ordinances to allow short-term rentals in certain commercial and mixed-use areas, and exclude the permitted uses in residential areas. So they would not be permitted in residential areas and would be in certain commercial and mixed-use areas of the parish. That's what this ordinance seeks to do, as well as establish a permitting process. However, the zoning commission tonight their purview is only to consider the text changes to chapter 130, not necessarily the licensing and permitting issues in chapter 22. So if you were in favor of the ordinance, you'd be in favor of permitting the short-term rentals to be used in commercial and mixed-use developments, and against them in residential areas.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I just didn't know that there were existing ordinances that forbade the practice. So that's why I'm confused. So I'll just defer for a moment, if I might have another opportunity after others have spoken, so I know what we're actually dealing with, if you don't mind. Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Lee Domingue?
Leo Doyle.
Doug Grazer?
I'm president of the Lakeview Residents Association, and currently we're transforming Rat's Nest Row into Lakeview Drive. And if we encourage all of you to come down and see what's happening. We have a lot of things happening at the Point Marina, which has increased traffic flow on our street. Tremendous amount of traffic, which is good. That's a good thing. He's bringing the right people into our neighborhood. The problem we have with short-term rentals is you have people that come in a 3-bedroom house, and there's 10 or 15 cars parked on the street. Now, we have 2-lane highway going in and out. And it makes it very challenging for us to have all these cars and people coming in that, one, do not reside there. I'll give you an example. A neighbor of mine was Airbnb. He rented during a big football game to 20 male people. Well, they're in the back of their house. I got my grandkids over, and all of a sudden, what shows up? A big pit bull. And the pit bull is not leashed, and he starts working his way towards my property. But that's an example of what happens when you start having people just come in that don't belong in the neighborhood or don't reside there.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Lakeview Drive is all residential.
Residents, right. But on our street, we have 10 to 12 people that are renting their place out on a regular basis. And another issue, it's supposed to be all residential.
Well, that's what legal just said, was it has to be mixed use or commercial. It cannot be residential, is that correct?
That's what this ordinance would do.
Okay.
Well, then my question is, how do we allow this to happen, and how are we supposed to police it? Should we I hear the DA now is getting involved with certain cases where if we can show that they're on a website and they're renting on a website, we can get the DA involved to
This
give
lady
them a
works
fine.
for the DA.
What's that?
This lady works for the DA.
Is that true?
Right now, we're just working through cases that are referred to us through code enforcement. So people that have violations of the code as it relates to noise or traffic or zoning regulations, those are referred to the DA's office from code enforcement.
Okay, good point. I'm glad you said that. Code enforcement, because we're dealing with plenty issues on the street. Code enforcement works Monday through Friday. You're not going to see them out there on Friday evening, Saturday, and Sunday when all these wild parties are going on and all the loud bands and overcrowding and everything else they do that comes into our neighborhood. So, do we call the police? How do we get this on record to get these owners fined and to stop doing this in our neighborhood?
Again, we really should limit our discussion tonight to this text change ordinance and whether the zoning commission should recommend that the council approve this text change ordinance. As to problems that you're having currently, yes, you can contact law enforcement if there's a violation of any of the ordinances, or you can contact code enforcement Monday through Friday and take videos, take pictures, and provide that to code enforcement.
Mr. Rose.
You can contact code enforcement actually at any time, just by email. It's enforcement@stpgov.org. And, you know, we've successfully prosecuted other, or the DA office says. And it really starts with the neighbors and the owners. And, you know, really it states, is this on?
Yeah.
You know, it helps when the residents provide information. You know, there are affidavits involved, you know, and things like that. So just because it's happening on the weekend doesn't mean that we don't have an enforcement mechanism. It just means that we need some help from the neighbors. So.
Well, and I appreciate that information. We need to be better educated on how do we police it in our neighborhood. We definitely do not want any language changes that would allow it on our street, in our association area, because it's a mess. It's a real mess what is happening. And it goes 2 and 3 things down the road as far as something simple as garbage. We just had Memorial Day. You had all these Airbnb people coming in. Well, waste management, you put a garbage can out, all right? Well, if you don't have, because there's 20 people that have been drinking and doing all this stuff, you got 6 bags of garbage. Waste management won't pick it up unless it's in the can. So now we got garbage sitting all on the side of our street, because if it was a normal.
Well, basically, after we review this proposed text change, if we recommend to the council favorably, then it will be for them to vote on. And again, once this is enacted, then you can get some help from law enforcement, right? Right?
We currently work hand in hand with Barry Mott, who's code enforcement. He's been very helpful with getting lots cut. Again, we're trying to beautify the street, all right? But we have a good relationship with him. I got his number. I can email him. So we talk a lot. So the person to go through would be Barry. And also, we have a good relationship with the lieutenant and the sergeant on the street. So if it's on the weekend, we can call them. And like I said, I would like to have a police report written up. That way we have a record of all these situations. So if we ever have to come back, I can bring the stack of police reports that have been written for these people, how and the owners are not here. So there's nobody to manage these people.
Well, that's all part of this text change.
Well, we appreciate, and we need to move quickly, and it sounds like we already have approval to start working with Barry on getting this eliminated right now.
We can certainly investigate it.
Thank you.
Okay? Anything else?
I'm done. I appreciate the help, and I really appreciate everything the parish is doing to help us with the street and cleaning things up and making the street a lot better.
Okay, thank you. Lee? Your lead?
I
Are
think
you lead domain?
I'm going to talk about the text change.
Are
So
you
that's-
lead domain?
I'm E.J. Lemieux. I live at 132 Rue de la Paix in Slidell and 52 Treasure Isle, also in Slidell. I'm active in both the homeowners associations, and I'm here to represent the subdivisions. Both these subdivisions voted strongly to support this ordinance. I'm going to call it an ordinance, you call it a text change. But basically, it prevents rentals of less than 30 days in residential areas. And we are absolutely in favor of that. I can't tell you how many problems, people have had because of renting houses by the day. I'm not saying it's not a good investment, but it really kind of eats away at the fabric of the subdivision. And I think the things that bother me are the noise, the trash, like Mr. Doyle said, the excessive number of cars, not knowing who's going to be next door to you every weekend. And I know they have expenses with these investments, but we have expenses too. I mean, I pay a lot of property taxes, and I'm happy to do it. But we just want to be able to enjoy our properties. And listen, I know other people may have different ideas, but if you're so unlucky as to have an active short-term rental next to you, you know what I mean. It's going to change your life. I guarantee you, it will change your life.
Okay.
So, and my wife, there are things that I get upset about. I mentioned some of them. She mentioned a few other things that really concern her, and one is security. When she's a retired public school teacher here, and we all have neighborhood watch, but these people that come in and out, large numbers of people, they walk all over the neighborhood, which is understandable. I mean, I guess they want to see what's going on, but you lose track of who's supposed to be in your subdivision. I mean, you don't recognize them, you don't know who it is. So it's a real security issue. And I'll close by saying, we've been working with our representatives, our council people, for almost 4 years on this. So we ask that you forward it to the full council for a vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Okay, the time has expired.
No.
Just sit tight, okay? If I have support of the commission, we can allow each speaker 2 minutes. Is there the council people, commissioners, are y'all in favor of allowing the rest of these people to speak for 2 minutes? All right, I'm seeing heads move positively, so I see one negative. Pardon?
2 minutes for the people that are left.
2 minutes to allow the rest of the people to speak on this. It's an important item. Okay? All right. Pardon?
May we have the opportunity in opposition to present our opposition?
Yes, you will. Okay, right now, I'm taking the cards that I have that are in favor of this ordinance, okay? You will have an opportunity, yes.
You will have the full 10-minute opposition period, plus the 2-minute per speaker addition.
Okay? Please state your name and address.
Okay, I'm Dolores Faulkner. I live at 74428 Highway 437 Lee Road, Covington. We live next to the quote-unquote castle, and I'm sure everybody's heard the castle. It's an Airbnb. They're bringing in buses. We've got tour companies coming in. We've got busloads of people. We've had weddings. We've had event halls. I mean, everything under the sun has taken place next door. The problem that we're having is not only like the other ones where it's all the noise and the litter. It's not only the noise and the litter. We've been cursed at. We've had people knock at our window at the middle of the night looking for the castle. We've had people come up looking for food. I mean, it's just all night long. It's a constant disruption with the people that are next door. And of course, you know, I mean, they're making a lot of money, so they're having a good time. They have karaoke outside. He's got a resort-type pool that's out there. They have pool parties all the time. I mean, it is an ongoing issue for us, an ongoing issue. You know, I have looked up where other lawmakers in other communities have prohibited, they've restricted. It is an issue across the country, not just here in St. Tammany, okay? And my problem is that I want to know, is if these people are not abiding by the law currently, how are we going to make them abide by the law once you pass this ordinance? Because they're not even taking into consideration the zoning currently. So how are y'all going to enforce this? I have tried many times calling the police. I have called police, the jurors. I have called our representatives. I've called our senators. I've called everybody that I could think of to try to get this resolved.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Lee Domain.
I'm Lee Domingue, 34057 Bayou Liberty Road, and I do speak for the ordinance. I think unincorporated St. Tammany Parish really needs to have a short-term rental ordinance. I think the text that is described in this ordinance adequately defines what a short-term rental is. I think it has a permitting for licensing. It has a process that's well explained. There's also penalties associated with violating the restrictions. In addition to all of that, and the main thrust of what you've already heard tonight, it prohibits short-term rental in strictly residential areas, because that has been a boondoggle all around where I live. We have multiple short-term rental institutions, and these are absolutely commercial endeavors. There's no question about it. Unfortunately, when people, I think, invest in a short-term rental as a lessor, what happens is, a lessee, the renter, what happens is they have this perception and attitude that the sky is the limit. They can do anything they want as though they were in a camp in the marsh. It really is not that way. It totally is destructive to residential areas. And I know my time is just about up, but what I want to do is introduce you to Angela, who cannot see, and she has a seeing eye dog. She wants to comment also as a resident whom I don't know, but she can't fill out the card only because she can't see. So thank you very much for hearing me out. I propose that you think very strongly and consider passing this ordinance and sending it to the council. Thanks much.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you. I have low vision. There's two things about this ordinance which I mostly agree with, except I'm concerned there may be a loophole. Y'all do overlays over like an A6 residential. There's an overlay that y'all call a traditional neighborhood development, which allows the short-term rentals. How are you going to prevent somebody from coming in here and asking for a TND overlay in my A6 residential, and therefore getting through a loophole and allowing for that short-term rental? How are y'all gonna prevent that?
Ma'am, the change to a T&D from any other zoning classification has to come to this board.
I know that.
Okay? And we look very closely at what's in the surrounding area, and if a particular zoning is appropriate in an area. If it's not appropriate, we will deny it. It goes to the council. they can either overturn the denial or support the denial. Okay? It's up to the council once it leaves our hands.
Okay, so if a person comes and applies for a T&D overlay
There's-
in my A6, and y'all don't know that they want to start an Airbnb rental, and y'all say, okay, it fits the criteria or whatever.
Well, there's not a T&D overlay.
I don't know the technical aspects of
Okay,
it.
Ross,
But there's a
you-
traditional neighborhood development, right?
Ross-
And short-term rentals are allowed in that.
That's
according-
correct. Currently, in the parish, I believe we may have 5 sites that are zoned T&D right now, and none of them are developed.
I know, but I'm talking
so
about the
A
future.
T&D is typically, at least a minimum, and I'm just throwing a number out, I don't know off the top of my head, 10 acres? Or-
Typically,
What's that?
typically,
So the ordinance.
not absolutely.
So the ordinance states that a T&D is it can't be less than 10 acres.
Okay.
If I remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
And I'm asking staff.
Okay.
So it's not like somebody's gonna come in and look for an overlay or a zoning change on a single-family parcel.
We want to make sure that that's not going to happen, because it's those kinds of loopholes
I don't even know
that
if
make
that's
this whole effort, and I do appreciate that, but when you're gone, because
It's
we
an
all
ordinance
leave.
that's 10 acres.
Okay, but do you appreciate what I'm getting at? In the
Sure.
future, when you're gone, and this whole board and the commission has been changed out by other people, I don't want there to be loopholes that allow some crafty lawyer to come in here and get around it. That's the concern. My next concern is that you have stated that the short-term rental was never a permitted use for certain areas, and you'll have prosecuted some of them, or gone after them, or whatever, I forget your language. We placed a complaint about one operating in Hollycrest, and to my knowledge, nothing has been done about that. Hollycrest is zoned in A6. When will you act on that?
Well, I mean, it's,
Again, tonight's meeting is limited to the text change ordinance.
Would you please call me?
You're welcome to email enforcement at stpgov.org.
We already lodged the complaint. If
And
this is
we
the
can-
kind of enforcement that we're getting with this ordinance,
okay.
then
Well-
it's not working for us.
Well, this is the.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right. Fred Spolinsky, you had some questions. You didn't quite understand what the ordinance was about. Do you understand better now? Okay, thank you. All right. All right. Is there anyone else wish to speak in favor? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
My name is Lee Longstreet. I'm a resident of Eden Isles at 128 Windward Passage. I also represent a number of the people in Moonraker Estates who we've been working together with. I filled out a comment card, evidently got lost over there. I probably filled out the first card. Anyway, I'm going to read as fast as I can.
We got it.
And by the way, thank you for your service. Consistent with the comprehensive, and by the way, I'm definitely for the ordinance. I read the whole thing several times. Consistent with the comprehensive zoning ordinance, short-term rentals have never been a permitted use in any zoning district. While short-term rentals may be appropriate in certain commercial and mixed-use zoning districts, they are not compatible with residentially zoned areas, especially those zoned for single-family residential use. Short-term rentals are business operations whereby there's a flow of temporary stays by visitors for revenue, akin to the operation of a hotel. Because of the lack of supervision associated with short-term rentals, and because there are 2 or more rooms in a home, they draw groups that routinely have more of an impact than the typical hotel occupant, which is in itself obviously commercial. Some of the problems with short-term rentals. One is the community. Short-term rentals are occupied by visitors that have no vested interest in the community, and because their stay is temporary, are not typically concerned with the impact they have on the neighboring homes. For the same reason, they cannot register to vote. In the end, visitor and resident are and will always remain different words legally and otherwise. Crime. Short-term rental occupant visitors are visitors, and therefore local law enforcement does not have a heads up of possible incoming criminal activity. Under the short-term rental atmosphere, even sexual offenders also skirt the lawfully required notice to the community as required under Louisiana law. Sometimes short-term rentals are booked by a clean party that passes credit and other background checks, only to turn around and invite more en masse to join in. It is impossible for the booking agent to know the character of these additional guests that seem to just show up. There could be drug dealers, addicts, prostitutes, etc.
Please wrap up.
Traffic is substantially impacted by short-term rentals because the occupant stay is temporary. They are running here and there to pick up last-minute items, and they also have a different mentality of driving because they just don't live here.
Thank you.
Why can't I get my 10 minutes? I had my
2 minutes, 2 minutes.
I had my card in first.
All right, is anyone else wish to speak in favor? Please state your name and address.
Raymond Fry, I'm at 102 Pebble Beach in Eden Isles, and basically it's a question. We're suggesting today in residential areas such as Eden Isles, it is not permitted to have these short-term rental units. Online, advertised right now, 2 houses from me, it advertised, we house 16 people, come on in. This past weekend, we had about 20 teenage girls swimming in the bayou that was extremely dangerous with boat traffic. If it's not allowed and they advertise it, why aren't we doing something? Right now, 3 of my neighbors have their homes up for sale because of this. And yet you say it's not legal and it shouldn't happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Villavaso, 34514 Highway 433, Slidell, right past the Bayou Liberty Water Tower. I bought a house with 2 houses on it, and I have a lot of acres. And the people across the street, they have an Airbnb. I sympathize with the neighborhood situation. I do understand. I do come from a neighborhood. I'm in favor of all these changes, and it needs to be done. In my case, it's a little bit different because I have 2 houses on my property with large expanse of land, and my next door neighbor across the street, we don't have any problems that are existing in these neighborhoods. I'm in favor of this 100%, get these changes done because it affects everybody. I'm in right past the Bayou Liberty Water Tower, so I'm gonna have to go through these changes and make sure I'm in zoning regulations. But when people come over to my house, the Airbnb or other properties right on my property, and I have 6 acres, I'm not bragging, but I don't hardly affect any neighborhoods in association. But I'm all in favor of everybody here, and I've experienced that when I came from New Orleans. So really, let's get this matter resolved. And one other question I'd like to ask you is, it says here, according to the comprehensive plan. Where do you get a copy of a comprehensive plan?
Is it on the website?
Yeah.
It should be on the website. If you go to St. Tammany Parish government, it's stpgov.org, and go under the planning department. You can look at a copy of the comprehensive plan there.
Yeah, she's exactly right, and it's called New Directions 2025. So there should be a link for it, and it's a good opportunity to take this as an advertisement as well. We have a comprehensive plan update going on called New Directions 2040. So please get yourself involved with the process.
Yeah, I wish you would have added this comprehensive plan with this so that we'll be more involved with, so we can get this together. Feel free, any one of y'all to contact me. I'll be willing to work with you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in favor? You wish to speak in favor? She already spoke. All right, thank you. Good evening. Please state your name and address.
My name is Bonnie Deering. I live at 112 Rampage Loop. I'm a mother and have 2 children, 2 girls at home, 13 and 15. My concern is everything that they're sharing here. I live next door to a short-term rental. This past weekend, we had a van dropped off 20 people. Chartered van. 2 girls in my backyard, these men in my backyard overlooking. I'm concerned about the safety, not only for my children, for our neighborhood, the traffic. Their problem is, it's not just that particular group. It's not the first time. We've had drug deals go down next door. You wake up in the morning, you're smelling marijuana. You wake up the next morning, you still smell marijuana. sun up to sun up, literally. I'm in the healthcare profession. I'm a nurse practitioner. I cannot lose my job by, breathing in marijuana. It's on the water. It's downstream. You smell it. It's ridiculous. Traffic in and out, 12, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, just quick drive-bys. They rent 1 week at a time, go to the next rental, 1 week at a time. They're remodeling their house. They're not remodeling their house. I have pictures of people in a certain culture that looks like people who look like drug dealers, okay? When you don't look at them and answer their questions, what kind of dog is that? What kind of boat is this? Oh my gosh, oh, is that your daughter? Oh, da, 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 da. All these questions and things, when you don't answer them, you know what you get? Fish heads in your boat? Chicken wings on your property? And then when you're not at home, you know what your other neighbor tells you they're doing? Walking across your property to get to the next property. The gentleman that that owns the property next door to me also owns about 8 other properties. It's called OrleansVacationCompany.com. It's a beautiful website.
Thank
Who
you.
wouldn't want a vacation there?
Thank you. Did you fill out a speaker card? Okay. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor?
Can I submit these pictures to the board? Is that okay?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and the rest of the commission. My name is Carol Gillio, and by the way, the lady who just spoke lives in Eden Isles. She said Rampage Loop. I wanted you to understand it's Eden Isles. I also live in Eden Isles. I'm a practicing attorney. I'm retired from the small claims court, and I want to let you all know this is going to open floodgates for the courts, the abuses that are going on right now with these short-term rentals. And I almost hope it does. It's time for restraining orders and everything else to stop the complete devastation of our neighborhoods. It's got to stop. Eden Isles was built back up. And I'm going to speak not as an attorney right now, but from the heart. Eden Isles was built back up after a devastating hurricane. And we built it back up with blood, sweat, and tears into a beautiful community that is presently being destroyed by short-term rentals. And I mean the word destroyed. It's happening, nothing's being done about it. This ordinance with the restrictions, these are good. There's not enough meat in them. There needs to be fines, serious fines for these owners. I see in one of your articles, and I know I have very little time, but in one of the articles of the ordinance, it talks about posting the name of the owner or the contact person so the guests and neighbors can see it. Really? Now, come on. How is that going to work? So you're a neighbor, you're going to go over there and you're going to ask one of these less than maybe desirable guests, oh, can I see the name, please, of the managing person, of the owner, so I can file a big complaint against them? Folks, we need more even than what this ordinance is proposing. It's got to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. All right. We need to kind of, hold the claps down. I understand you're in favor of it, but by the same token, that just keeps, adding time to the night. Anyone else wish to speak in favor? All right, we'll go to those that wish to speak against the tax change. Yes, sir, you had indicated you wish to speak against. Please state your name and address.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Evan Plochet, 114 Rampage Loop, Slidell, Louisiana. I'm an attorney. We have a group of short-term rental owners that we have represented and that we...
Hold on just a minute. Okay, they've got the gentleman out.
As I said, there are a group of short-term rental owners that own short-term rentals in St. Tammany Parish. and I want to address the issues that the commission raised about the language in this ordinance, which we think is completely unworkable. We think it is draconian, and we think that it has constitutional issues, which I don't think can be resolved. And I'll tell you what they are. If you define a short-term rental, which is a residential rental, everywhere in this country, it's considered a residential rental, as a hotel, not a single solitary short-term rental can operate in unincorporated St. Tammany Parish if this ordinance is passed the way it's written. Because not any of these buildings can qualify under the zoning codes, under the building codes, under all the requirements that would be under all the mandates that would be required of a hotel to operate. So that's a functional problem from the beginning, which we said to Councilman Stefanik in 2019 that this ordinance should not be written like this, that it is a flat-out ban on short-term rentals in St. Tammany Parish, and it's unworkable the way it's written. Now, I don't know a way around that. You know, it's not something that you can fix. In other words, I think the whole thing needs to go back to the parish attorney's office. Let us meet with the parish attorney's office. Let's try to draft something that we can agree on, because what's going to end up happening, and I was involved in the Orleans Parish short-term rental ordinance fiasco, which got the city sued by everybody in this, 2,000 short-term rental owners in the city, and many of them sued the city after they enacted a draconian ordinance, which is, I think, personally unenforceable and has all sorts of constitutional issues. So this whole process, in my opinion, needs to go back to square one. We need to write an ordinance or some type of regulatory ordinance that is workable, that everybody can agree with. I mean, we're willing to sit down and talk about it. I've talked to Councilman Stefanik a number of times. I said, we want to be involved. He's not done anything to reach out to us, to even tell us he was doing this. The parish attorney's office, I have not talked to them since before COVID 2 years ago. And the language in this ordinance is just not workable. You can't fix it, and there's nothing you can do with it. So I'm asking for an opportunity for us to sit down with the parties involved, with the parish attorney's office, with Councilman Stefanski's office, and try to come up with something that can work. That being said, let me say this. I think this is a solution without a problem. And you're going to ask me, Mr. Plochet, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Well, here's what I'm talking about. This is an ordinance governing unincorporated St. Tammany Parish. This is where you want short-term rentals to operate in this parish. This is where they've been operating. Some of these vacation properties have been operating in this parish before everybody in this room was even born. My grandparents rented vacation property in Covington in the early 1900s, okay? This community was developed initially as a vacation community. There are thousands of properties in this parish that are on the water that have been and are being used as vacation rentals, and they historically have been going way back. The gentleman who spoke about Lakeview Drive, I get it. He moved in there. Those properties were vacation rentals when he moved in there. All right? So here's my concern.
Wait a minute. Hold on just a minute.
You have an ordinance.
Wait a minute, just a minute. I'm going to ask those of you that are speaking up, clapping, to give this man respect, let him speak. And if you don't want to do that, I'll have to ask the sheriff's deputy to escort you out. Okay? Have respect for each other. All right, go ahead.
So let me just say this about the ordinance. On the first page of the ordinance, there is a whereas provision that says, whereas short-term rentals have greater potential negative impacts on residential zoning districts, including noise, traffic, trash, health, and safety. Ladies and gentlemen, every one of those items on that list is already governed by an ordinance in this parish that can control noise, trash, traffic, and health and safety. There is no need to draft a draconian ordinance that is going to put everybody out of business, in theory, that you can't fix with a grandfathering provision, because the way the short-term rental is defined as a hotel, you can't fix that problem. You know, it's a systemic problem with the way this was drafted. It cannot be fixed, okay? You have ordinances already in place. I talked to one of the parish councilmen the other day about this, and she said, are there ordinances in this parish that already govern these things already? My answer was, of course there are. When there's a problem with noise, you call the sheriff's department. That's what this gentleman was talking about. He does it already. When there's a problem with garbage, you call the sanitation department or whoever it is, waste management, who does all that, and they come pick it up. That's just, you know, that's just what happens. That's what the ordinances are for. So my point is, this is a draconian ordinance. It's going to have the effect of essentially banning every short-term rental in unincorporated St. Tammany Parish that exists, which now probably exceeds 200. I don't know the exact number. We bring in millions of dollars of revenue to this parish. I personally pay for advertisement on Google to advertise St. Tammany Parish, to bring tourists here who would never set foot in St. Tammany Parish except for the fact that we're here. Okay, they come in, they spend money in the restaurants, they spend money in the shopping centers, they shop in Fremont Mall, they buy gas, they go to the grocery store in St. Tammany. That's all tax revenue. I'm spending money on PR to promote St. Tammany because I think it's a great parish, and I think there's room for vacation properties in St. Tammany. If you look at every community from Florida to Mississippi that's coastal, that has a lot of waterfront property, you're going to see ordinances that allow short-term rentals in almost all of them. You know, people in this room, they go to Florida, they rent property, they rent short-term rentals. I'll bet you if you ask people, they'll say, yeah, I rented a beach rental. It's a short-term rental. Why would you want to ban that in a community that has so much waterfront property, just like, for instance, Florida, for instance, some of the places, Destin, other places that already do this and allow it? And it can be done in a reasonable way. You know, should there be regulation? I don't have a problem with that. I do have a problem with an ordinance that's going to effectively put every one of these operating properties out of business, including the ones that have been operating for decades on Lakeview Drive and other places where they've existed forever. So the point is, I think we need to step back. I think we need to look at what type of ordinance will work. You know, Councilman Stefanik has not done anything to want to work with us. We made suggestions back in 2019 about how this should be written, about how short-term rentals should be, you know, supervised and regulated. He ignored everything, all of it. I don't think he put one thing in there that we suggested. So we need to step back. We need to do something that's going to be reasonable. You can't enforce this. You try to enforce this, you're going to have to create a whole department in safety and permits, like New Orleans did, to enforce this ordinance. You're going to have inspectors. They're going to have to go to these places and try to inspect them. They're going to have to keep track of all this stuff and all these permitting issues. It's a nightmare. New Orleans did it. They can't enforce the stuff because it's too complicated. And so it's costing them millions of dollars. You know, you had to create a whole new department. They're spending millions of dollars trying to enforce an ordinance that is draconian like this one, that they can't enforce, that's costing millions of dollars to try to enforce it. And I think that's a total mistake for this parish to do that, because the parish is already strapped for cash. We don't have the inspectors here that can go do building permit inspections, much less do this. And I don't know why anybody would want to layer a whole new group of ordinances and create a whole new department to try to supervise all this stuff when I don't think it's necessary. You got two things. You have subdivisions, which St. Tammany was developed with subdivisions mostly. They already have short-term rental restrictions in the HOA provisions in almost all of them. So they're out of the picture anyway. There's no reason to impose a ban on unincorporated St. Tammany Parish. You've already got that because these subdivisions already have restrictions. So why would you need to do it again? You know, so it just seems like it's like using a nuclear bomb, you know, to kill a mosquito. You don't need to do that because those things already exist. You've got cities like, for instance, Slidell has a limitation. So does Mandeville. So does Covington. let the cities decide how to do this. They may differ from you all in the parish about how to do this. So I think everybody should step back, let's do something that's gonna work and not do something that's so draconian that you could never enforce it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, legal wants to comment.
No, I just wanted to make one quick point, that this would only apply to unincorporated St. Tammany parishes. The municipalities would not be governed by this ordinance. This is only for unincorporated St. Tammany Parish.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I mean, there's already ordinances governing the cities, and my point is, let them decide how to do it.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir, you want to speak against?
I didn't speak the first time. That was my first time up here.
Let's see.
I had a card I'd filled out, but I just wanted to, I know we're getting late, and I want to just, if I had 2 minutes, that's all I need. And I wanted to address you guys and address something. First of all, those of you that have problems with rentals
Speak
nearby-
into the microphone.
I'm sorry, those of you that have problems, I feel for you, I understand. I'm an operator, and not all operators operate like that. Okay, I have 3 properties. One's on 8 acres, one's on 5 acres, one's on an acre on an island with very few houses. My neighbors help watch the property when no one's renting them. I don't allow more than 2 people per bedroom. I don't allow parties. I live in Mandeville. I check the houses. I check the guests in when they arrive. I check them out when they depart. I make sure everything's perfect. Not all operators operate like me, and there are some that are bad operators. What I wanted to propose as the ordinance, and Mr. Stefancic had contacted me about organizing a committee to come up with a way to operate and put in rules and guidelines of how many people and where they can be and how many in an area density-wise, if it's 1 per block, 1 per mile, 1 whatever, and put in some kind of rules. Because there's over 200 properties, but you've got about 6 or 7 of them in one area that you're having problems with. Those few bad apples shouldn't spoil the bunch for operators that are operating very highly rated properties that are I'm bringing people from all over the world. I have people from different continents. They fly into the airport at Slidell, not in New Orleans. They fly their own planes in. I have a seaplane base behind one of our properties where we land water planes. That's the type of people I'm bringing in. It's high net worth individuals spending lots of money in this parish. These are not party houses. There's a lot of properties like mine that sit on large tracts of land, but they would be listed as residential by these definitions. And the dilemma I have is that you'll take these properties where I'm housing the celebrities that are filming movies in town. I'm housing, I had AT&T workers rent 3 of my properties for 3 weeks so they could put high-speed internet throughout St. Tammany Parish. And so those guys didn't have to stay at a hotel. They could live like they do as a family at home and get the internet done for Slidell. I'm sure everybody has internet service. I was part of the reason your internet service was laid out in that area. So I appreciate what we're doing, but thank you.
We don't have a speaker card on you.
I did leave one when I first came
What
in.
was your
My name's
name?
Eric Luco. I live at 985 Bald Cypress Drive in Mandeville.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I never did get to speak the first time because I was confused about the ordinance. That's me. I'm that guy.
Yeah.
Freddie Spoliansky. I also have a property. I'm an extremely conscientious host. I'm over in Bayou Bonfuca subdivision, and the bigger problem, really, and please understand that I understand the concerns of many of the people who have unsupervised properties. I've got video surveillance in the exterior, I've got noise monitoring on the interior, and I too go and greet every single guest personally, and if they're not what they represented when they book the place, they don't get to stay, they get evicted. The biggest problem that I've got is that I've got 3 neighbors that are awesome on 3 sides, and I've got one neighbor on the other side who comes out, and she's the one who foments the problem. She fans the flame by she starts out by yelling at the people who show up. She wants my superhost status to be diminished by saying, wow, they got a crazy neighbor, don't stay there. So this knife cuts both ways. The thing that we're suffering right now, I think, is a lack of civility. This is the hardest thing, is the requiem for civility and dialogue, because I have no problem being regulated, fairly regulated, reasonably regulated. I have no problem paying my fair share. I actually bought the house to live in. It's an A-frame. My wife said, after we started renovating, I get claustrophobia. I can't stay here. So I paid $235,000 for a house that my wife couldn't live in. We decided, okay, let's try short-term rental. I mean, what's the big deal? What could possibly go wrong? Well, a lot. Police are called frequently. I've already gone to Slidell PD, and they stopped responding because every time they show up, there's no problem. There's no noise because I monitor it. I shut it down. I've got quiet hours from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m., weekends, weekdays, quiet hours, no outside behavior at all. And I've got a beautiful downstairs spa and facility that I built. What I'm saying is we're not the devils that we're being painted to be. There's actually some of us that are super conscientious and actually care about our neighbors.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak against? Carol, you've already spoke.
I know I have, and I'm going to ask, as I would ask the court to have a rebuttal from an attorney who just made a lot of misstatements. One very important point that you all need to hear. The gentleman just stated that all the subdivisions, or most of them, have covenants in there restricting short-term rentals. That is absolutely false, and I can prove it. I understand he didn't put his hand on the Bible, I get that. But I'm telling you right now, as a member of the bar, as a former judge of small claims court, that is absolutely false.
Thank you.
And I have the proof of it.
Thank you.
Secondly, don't insult us by comparing our neighborhood communities to Destin, Florida.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
Larry Lehans. I'm at 432 Moonraker Drive, Eden Isles. I have a problem with a lawyer coming up here and lying to y'all. I know he's paid to protect his property, but it's unreal for him to lie. We have no control over the garbage. If they say you only get one garbage can, you can't do anything, so the garbage does sit there. The sewer. Moonraker was not made for all this extra sewage. We've had sewage problems for the whole 5 years I've lived there. So yeah, they have regulations, but they don't know how to fix them. Again, if you had a party next door to your house every weekend, you would get aggravated. And that's the problem.
We're hoping that
if you have a party every weekend, I had a party every weekend for the month of September, and the police showed up every weekend. There's nothing they could do. I was living by the law, okay? So just think, Airbnb, I'm going there to party, especially if I'm under 21 or under 30. I'm going there to party, not going there to buy groceries, to shop at Fremo. No, I'm going there to party. And that's what they come here for. And again, if you live next door to one, I promise you, you would pass this ordinance as is without even blinking your eye. So again, I'm not a lawyer. I understand the law of the land. This is the will of the people who vote for you, okay? So consider everybody instead of special interests that don't tell the whole truth, okay?
Okay, thank you. All right, sir, need to get a card filled out. Okay.
And sir, just one quick comment too. This board is appointed, they're not elected, and they will just be making a recommendation to the parish council, but the parish council will still be taking up this agenda item. So if you would like, you might want to check to see when the parish council will be taking up this agenda item to make public comment then.
Okay. Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
Michael Dale, North Covington, Eagle Road. I really feel for the people that are speaking about these party houses, and it's a shame that the government hasn't done more to shut them down. That's not the place I operate. I have a place on North Shore Beach on one of the small finger canals. The nuisance laws should shut down the party houses. Nobody wants Animal House in their neighborhood or around them. When you first buy a property, one of the first things that get done is a survey. The surveyor comes out and he looks at an invisible but real line that determines where my neighbor's rights stop and my rights start. I would never infringe on my neighbor's enjoyment of his property, but he shouldn't be able to dictate to me how I can enjoy my property. I offer a furnished rental. If somebody's house in Covington floods and needed a house for a month or 2 months, mine's available. If somebody's renovating their house or if they're getting relocated to Slidell and they're waiting for their closing on their house to come and they need a place to stay, mine's available. Somebody's coming for a wedding or their grandma's funeral, they're welcome. I have no time limit on my rental. You can rent it for a week, a month, or a year. 2 houses next door to each other, a long-term rental and a short-term rental. At the end of the day, the people go into the long-term rental and close their door. The short-term rental, they do the same. What is the difference between these two houses? Nothing. It's people inside doing things people do. This ordinance has been worked on for years. I'm sure the authors did a lot of work. They even said they went to Spain to get some verbiage. And this is the finished product, or soon to be a finished product. And in it, any residential rental property rented less than 30 days will be illegal. The question that comes to mind is, what happens to all the houses in February? I support regulation and licensing, reasonable enforcement, and I also support owners and tenants who are law-abiding citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else wish to speak against? All right, I'm going to close it to the public and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Drum.
Yes, sir. There's a spelling mistake in this section. It's page 3, section 22-588, imposition and levy. It says there is hereby levied and imposed within the unincorporated areas F the parish. It should be of the
We
parish.
got it, thank you.
Well, I'm just stating what you asked me.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I had fun saying F the parish, though. Okay.
Anything else, Kirk?
Oh, no, my fun's over.
Commissioner McInnes.
I really feel for a lot of the comments tonight on both sides. And I'll admit, I don't really feel, I feel a struggle with this one because I don't know the history of how this was developed. I don't know how the language was obtained. Was another example used? Do we come up with it on our own? So I am concerned about lawsuits that may be coming. But I do have some specific comments and questions. One is for staff. I assume that for a formal bed and breakfast, that there's a permitting process and specific requirements for
Yes.
those businesses?
Yes.
And even though I know we're not commenting on the specifics of the enforcement items, is it similar? Is this sort of bringing short-term rental similar to what a bed and breakfast is required to do?
I mean, these are specific to short-term rentals, so I wouldn't do a comparison on a bed and breakfast and a short-term rental. They're two different operations. This language was developed by council office, administration, in conjunction with the DA over months.
Okay, well, that, nobody, we just get it in our packet.
Sure,
I don't know
no.
where it comes from.
I'm letting you know.
And that's very good to know. I guess the reason I was asking for, because I can imagine people who've had bed and breakfast businesses are a bit put off by, all of a sudden, this technology allows short-term rentals in anybody's house. And it's, it's a lot of competition for people who don't have to meet OSHA standards and various other things that a bed and breakfast has to do. So I think it is bringing them in line more. My bigger issue is, what about rural areas? And maybe this is for legal. I see that there's, you're changing rural overlay language, but rural overlay isn't all of rural St. Tammany. So if someone has or would like to have a short-term rental and they're out in the country, they would have to get their property zoned for rural overlay if it's not already?
That's correct, yes. It would be a permitted use if the landowner had that overlay on their property. And if they don't have that overlay, they would be required to make that application to staff, who would then present it to the zoning commission, and it would be subject to a public hearing. And just to answer your first question, Nellen, about the bed and breakfast, the reason we started at NC3 as the permitted use for short-term rentals is because that is where bed and breakfasts appear, and that is a lodging district. So that's the first commercial district, or the first non-residential district that allows lodging. So that's why we started at NC3 to allow short-term rentals.
That makes sense. Okay, so if, I'm a little, when I travel, I've used Airbnb, and I like to be in rural areas when I use Airbnb. And, you know, you want to be on a farm or by a lake or, you know, somewhere like that. And in the whereases, on the first page, the third one from the bottom, it says short-term rentals are more compatible with mixed-use and commercially zoned districts where residential and commercial uses are allowed to coexist. I'm wondering if we could add or in rural areas, because this is implying that we really just want it in residential, mixed-use areas that are residential and commercial. But it allows in rural areas with rural overlays. So could we either give it a new whereas or just add or in rural areas to make it clear that it's not ruling out all of the countryside of St. Tammany? Because I do think it is a valuable economic benefit, and it brings people into the parish. And in appropriate areas, it would be advantageous.
The whereas language is not law, it's not codified, it's just explanatory language for why the ordinance is drafted. If you wanted to make that recommended amendment to present that to the council for their consideration, you can do that. But again, it's just explanatory language and it's not codified.
I understand, but I do think it's important because it's laying the groundwork for the intent of the language in the ordinance. And just another question in the definitions. I'm assuming on page 2, where under the definition of hotel, well, I guess it's the short-term rental definition. So a room in the house would also qualify as a short-term rental? It doesn't have to be a standalone building?
That's correct.
So it could be you're living in the home and you rent one room. That's part of this?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood it correctly. I'm going to hold off on the changing of the language until I hear other commissioners speak.
Thank you. Mr. Crawford.
I had a question. I believe this is for Emily. What's the current law regarding short-term rentals in the parish?
So the way that our code is structured, only those uses that are permitted in each of those zoning classifications is allowed. Okay. And currently, the short-term rental, which has been defined by the court, or not defined by the court, but interpreted by a number of different courts as more akin to a hotel than a residence, is not a permitted use in any of our zoning districts. Okay. So this ordinance change, as I've stated before, would be to allow it in certain commercial and mixed-use developments. And again, because it's not permitted in any districts now, it would still not be permitted in those residential districts.
Do we have any ordinance that specifically excludes short-term rentals in the parish, just as a blanket statement?
No, not as a blanket statement. It's just that the way the
Not
code's
permitted.
structured, we permit uses. We don't list all the excluded uses for certain properties.
Okay, okay. Just my personal opinion, listening to everybody out there, I feel for both sides. It definitely sounds like there's a problem, and the pictures that were passed around identify that there's a serious problem with some rentals, and obviously there's no problem with other rentals, and probably many of them. I've stayed at Airbnbs. My wife loves to stay at Airbnbs. It's a good resource to be able to go to town, get a place, and stay there for a night. And of course, we don't create any problem. And I'm sure that's probably the way most of them are in this parish. But it's the ones that are a problem that we've heard about tonight that really are a problem, and it sounds pretty bad. This paperwork that we have in front of us, in my opinion, just talking as a commissioner, it's a start. I think it's got some problems. I think it needs some additional work, perhaps, to allow some of these to exist in other areas. But I think that might come after this. This is a good start. So that's the only comment I have at the present time. Not prepared to make a motion on this. I don't. What is the motion? Like, do we motion to send this to the council?
It would be, you all have the authority to make amendments to any of the changes to section 130 or to chapter 130, and then to recommend that the council adopt or not adopt. It's already been introduced by the council, so when it's referred back from the commission to the council, it'll be up for adoption. So if there are changes that you think need to be discussed further, I just want you all to be aware where it is in the procedural process, that it'll be up for adoption by the council. So if you all wanted additional time to discuss those things, to have community meetings, you all need to be aware of where we are in the process.
Okay, thank you. That's all the comments I have.
Okay, Commissioner Willie.
Yeah, I would just like to say I respect both sides of this discussion. It's opened up a lot of things to me, that I wasn't aware of. I got a question. I guess going back to what Nell was saying about the rural area, the rural overlay would allow, I guess this is for legal, the rural overlay would allow short-term rentals, right?
Yes.
Okay. And rural overlay is allowed in a lot of different districts. I know it's allowed in A1, A2, and I don't know what other residential district it's allowed in. So could y'all answer that question, staff? Is it allowed in A3? How many residential districts can the rural overlay be allowed in?
Any request, any underlying zoning, the rural overlay can be requested as a zoning change for any type of underlying zoning.
So it could be allowed on A4, A5,
Yes.
A6?
Yes.
So that's a concern for me there, because that means short-term rentals can be allowed everywhere if somebody got the zoning change or rural overlay, correct? So that concerns me there. And then another question I have is with the existing, and I think there's probably more than 200 short-term rentals in this parish. Somebody said 200, I think it's more than that. If this ordinance is adopted, are those grandfathered in or not? I've heard kind of mixed emotions about that.
No, I mean,
They will
no
not be-
business licenses have been issued.
So nobody has licenses to operate these, they just operate them like they're just renting their house, right?
I think, as Emily had stated, these are not permitted uses
Right.
outside of commercial and mixed-use districts.
Right.
So
they
these are
wouldn't-
allowable uses.
So they're not up for being grandfathered, in other words?
Correct.
Okay. Okay,
Mr.
so,
Chairman,
and
can
then,
I-
so that's something I'm concerned about.
Can I address that?
And also on, and if adopted, the short-term rentals would have more inspections, things like that. And one of my main concerns is, what some gentleman mentioned earlier, is like, you know, you rent it to, it holds 6, but 20 people show up, and you got all this parking all over the roads and on these bad sites, let's say. How we control that? You know, you don't know how many people's gonna show up once you rent it to 3 people. They could show up with 50, it could be a class reunion. So are there controls when you go to apply for the permit?
So remember that these, as the ordinance amendment is stating, would be in mixed-use commercial districts, which theoretically would have more parking in those areas than just a single-family residential lot.
Right.
So that's what we're trying to mitigate, those issues such as junk, trash, debris, parking,
Right.
things like that.
So we'll go back to our other ordinances that control that, but we have to have enough enforcement to go do it. All
So
right?
again, I believe, as legal has stated, we don't allow for, short-term rentals in St. Tammany Parish as per our zoning ordinance or our Unified Development Code.
Yeah.
This will allow them in certain districts.
Okay, so I guess I'm gonna go back to my main point is about that RO overlay. That can be allowed in every residential district, so that means it can be allowed all over if it's accepted as a overlay. So,
By this commission.
and sometimes you don't know what they're requesting the RO overlay for. Might not be raising horses and cows, so.
Which would be typically hard to do on an 8-4 residentially zoned piece of property.
Right.
Typically.
Right, but they may want to have a dog kennel or something smaller. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Rist.
Wow. That's a lot to absorb in one night, I can tell you. Speaking of the rural overlay, so any property in the parish that already has a rural overlay on it could apply for a permit. And they don't have to come here and ask for one if it's already on there. So that opens up everything in the parish that has a RO on it already. And there's nothing to stop that. We have the ability to maybe deny if it comes before us, and it'll probably be a new question we'll be asking, or really have to think hard about whether we would grant a rural overlay going forward. But for right now, the door's open, so I'd say. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. The other thing is the 30 days. So people have ways to figure out how to do things. They're very ingenious over time. They figure out loopholes where there weren't supposed to be a loophole. So I kind of like to think through those things a little bit, and I automatically came up with, if there was a nice rental house, and there's some nice ones, I'm just going to let's just pretend like Mandeville Lakefront isn't in Mandeville, but let's just take that type of, and there's a nice big house down there. And I'm willing to pay a good amount of money to rent that house. Well, I'm going to rent it for 31 days, even though I may only use it for 3 days, 2 days. But I'm going to rent it for 30 because it's worth it to me to have the people I want to do my thing. Now, you can only do that 11 times a year, but it still does not, there is no wording in here that prevents 31-day rentals. Okay, you can rent for 30, that's the way I understand it. I could rent it for 31 days, and I could do that 11 times a year for $4,000 or $5,000 and make a pretty nice return on my property if I had the right property to do that. Is that correct?
That's correct, but we have done extensive legal research on this for over 2 years. And the reason that 30-day provision is in there is so that your month-to-month rentals don't get caught up in this definition of short-term rentals. So that's why we drew the line at the 30 days.
But it doesn't necessarily do away with having basically a short-term rental next door to you. It could just be a 31-day rental instead of a 29-day rental, correct?
That's correct. I guess you could have a bad actor that wanted
I'm
to
just,
jump through those loopholes, yes.
Exactly. I could see where that's, so, I don't know, and I don't know how you get around that, don't get me wrong, unless it was just limited the number of times per year you could rent a property.
but still doesn't stop it completely. I don't know how you protect. When I get down to the bottom of this thing and I'm thinking about if I had it next door to me. So I like to think of a lot of these things I like to think of it if it was my piece of property and I wanted to be in this business, and I like to think about it as if it was next door to me. And I hear the people that came in that do a diligent job at this. But as we all know, that's why there's laws, because there's a lot of people that don't do the right things. And if you're the person that's coming in, if it happened next door to you, you'd be here at this meeting tonight. There is no doubt in my mind that getting control of this, whether this is the perfect document or not, I kind of like Mr. Crawford. I think it's a start to try to get it right, both for protect people, and then if we have to find ways to open it back up in a way that works for the people that are doing rentals, that are doing it right. I think that, but right now we got people that are having to live under conditions that aren't right. And there may be ordinances in there that should be helping them already. I have a lot of concern about how this will ever get enforced. I think people coming in have demonstrated that. But we got to have something to get something done here. So, I mean, I want to move to adopt this ordinance as changed.
We have a motion by Commissioner Seegers to approve the ordinance as written. Commissioner Seegers.
Yes, I have an inherent dislike of making a blanket statement that's going to have punitive damages for a group of people. Is there a different way to regulate the ones that are in existence? If you have a certain number of complaints that you lose your occupational license or you lose your permit to have this? Is there a different way of doing this? By the way, Commissioner Ress, I would have stepped further than him, because when I rented my property for 31 days and I paid $4,000, I was going to turn around and release that, sublet it, and not only get my money back, but make a profit. And what's to prevent something like that from happening? I've lived next to some B&Bs that were terrible. In a different parish, and I couldn't get anything resolved. Calling the police was just an effort and frustration. So I understand those of you who are going through that. But as a property owner, and I am a property owner who has owned long-term leases, I have a problem with telling a property owner, you can't do that when you've been doing it. And I would dare say that 80% of our short-term leases that currently exist in St. Tammany Parish are doing a good job. It's a small percentage. It's like everything else. It's a small percentage that's causing a problem. All of that being said, I'm going to second that proposal and encourage both sides to continue working on wording and documentation with the council.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Barcelona.
I have a question, I guess, for Emily. For the rural overlay, where it says that we're amending Article 5, Division 7, Section 130, 1836. It says where short-term rental is allowed, the proposed use shall meet the following criteria. So are short-term rentals allowed for any rural overlay, or does it depend on the underlying zoning?
If this ordinance were approved by the council, they'd be allowed for any rural overlays, and they'd still be subject to administrative permits from administration.
So if the underlying zoning was A2, strictly residential, and you had a rural overlay, as it exists right now, then it would be allowed.
Correct. If
So-
they applied for the administrative permit
Okay, so that means it will be allowed in the residential area.
with the rural overlay. Only if they have the rural overlay.
Anything else, Paul?
That's it.
Commissioner Truxillo?
Yeah, I just have a comment. Heard a lot of pros and cons about this, but and it was all focused on short-term renters. You can have a long-term renter that rents a house for a year. That could be a neighbor from hell. And it's not really the people that are renting; it's the management of it. The people that's actually managing these things. So you can have bad renters from 1 day to 3 or 4 years. I just want to make that comment. I think we need to do something. I think we're going in the right direction. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Crawford?
Okay, just another comment. Again, I think this is a start. Unfortunately, I believe that one of the things that we may see as a result of this is a lot of applications for rural overlay on existing property, because a rural overlay is assigned by parcel, if I'm not correct, or it could be by parcel. So we may walk into the middle of that. The other thing is, this is an ordinance, this is a law. It can be written, it can be changed. So if a nightmare occurs, then I guess this can come back around and we can make some changes to it. Council can make changes to it. Don't know what the answer is. It seems there's definitely a problem, and it seems like maybe the answer for the parish, not this body, but for the parish might be to issue permits for short-term rentals, licenses, if you will, and then the bad actors can lose their license and have the ability taken away from them. And if things persist, they could lose their property or some eventuality like that. I think something has to exist where has to occur where both parties can exist and have these in residential areas. But this is a start, I guess, along that path. So that's it. Just had comments.
Mr. Chairman. Ross?
Can I just maybe clarify a little bit of the rural overlay, just for everybody here? I just went ahead and looked it up on Unicode. And a rural overlay is established to permit agricultural uses to encourage the maintenance of the rural countryside, to preserve forests and other undeveloped lands away from areas of population growth, and to allow for residents to retain their traditional ways of life. Permitted uses in a rural overlay include agricultural uses, residential uses, and they have very specific criteria on how to obtain rural overlay. So just wanted to throw it out there that you're probably not going to come here with an A4 piece of property, although you may if you have some acreage on it. And typically, what we see in rural area would be A1, A1A, A2, A3, things like that. Just the bigger parcels of land.
Okay. Commissioner McInnes, Commissioner Drum.
My mic was off, so is it on now?
It's on.
Okay. Under the definition of hotel, back there where it says definitions, the short-term rental is considered a hotel. So could we recommend to the council that since it's a hotel, there isn't a hotel I've been in that doesn't have an automatic fire suppression system, so they would have to install one in the house or wherever they have it? And second, it would have to have an alarm monitoring system, which is every hotel I've ever been in has a monitoring system, so that would have to be installed and paid for also. Could we suggest that to the council?
If I could just explain, first of all, that definition is in section 22, which is not before the commission tonight because it's not an amendment to section 130. But the definition there is a hotel, and that's just in the section of the code related to licenses, taxation, and regulations. So that's just a definition that relates to an occupational license and tax, and the hotel tax, the definition for the actual use of a short-term rental, you'll find right under it, amending section 130-5, and that's how short-term rental is defined in the land use code and how it would be defined for zoning purposes.
I don't know. It's up there under hotel. It says definition, and it's in the same line as hotel. So if they want to put it down at the bottom, different line. If it's a hotel, it's a hotel. Fire suppression system, monitoring, alarm monitoring system.
Okay, again, that section is not within the purview of this commission.
Okay. But I just thought I'd bring it up.
Thank you.
All right, anything else, Kirk?
Oh, no, my fun's over.
Commissioner McInnes?
You said your fun was over the last time. I'm going to come back to my proposed language change is to the third from the bottom on the first page, whereas short-term rentals are more compatible with mixed use and commercially zoned districts where residential and commercial uses are allowed to coexist. I would propose that we add or in rural areas. And then you have your semicolon and another and. Is anybody taking notes?
Yeah, I mean, I have that notation, and you can make that motion. I would just be concerned that that rural area could be very broadly interpreted. I would be concerned about that language in that whereas section.
But this is, as you said, not part of the ordinance. It is sort of like, I'm open for suggestions, Emily, but I think you've left out.
No. What about if we said in areas that obtain or meet the criteria for the rural overlay?
Sure.
So it's not specific to rural, but specific to rural overlay, since that is the zoning designation that is in the drafted language.
That's fine.
So add overlay to it.
It's just getting in the weeds in your whereases, but if that's what you want,
That's not what I want. You said suggestions. I'm just
I
throwing
just
something out.
want rural in there somewhere because it is not.
But then you have to define rural.
You'd have to, right, you'd have to,
Overlay, then we already have that definition.
correct. You don't have a definition for the term rural.
Rural overlay areas.
Right. That's how you'd have to state it if you wanted to make the amendment.
Sure. Someone wants to make that amendment.
All right, I make that amendment, proposed amendment. And I also have.
Can you just restate it, because I'm going to have to submit this to the council. So in the third from the bottom, whereas, after the word coexist, or in.
Before the semicolon.
Right.
Or in rural overlay areas. Or areas with rural overlay, however you want to wordsmith it. And then you have your semicolon and.
Okay.
You got it?
Yes, so.
Okay.
And I'd like to make ask one other question to staff. Are you prepared for the barrage of permits that you're going to get hit with if this gets adopted? If you have 200+ people that are operating now, they're going to need to come get permits if they qualify. It may take them months if there's this great backlog all of a sudden. And will this affect people needing permits for for issues that have nothing to do with this ordinance?
I mean, would be administrative permits. so they're not as intense as what you would use for a site work permit or building permit or things like this. So, yeah, we're good.
So the answer is yes, they're prepared for it.
Okay.
So I don't remember who made the motion. Was it Mr. Russ?
Yes, seconded by Mr. Seeger.
Second. So if you all choose to amend your motion to accept Nelwyn's amendment to that whereas section, we can just move forward. Otherwise, we're going to need to vote on Nelwyn's motion to amend and then come back to the motion to approve.
I'm all over the amendment.
Okay. And Mr. Seeger, you're okay with that? Okay, thank you. So now we have a motion to approve with the amendment to that whereas section as recommended by Commissioner McInnes.
Okay, now that, it's not, we don't need to vote on that right now, right? Okay. Commissioner Randolph.
Yes, sir, and I'd just like to make a comment. I just love being entertained and engaged in so much dialogue and conversation as it relates to the goods and bads of our ARRBs. I love learning. Y'all taught me a lot. I have a couple questions. One is on the very first page, and it goes to what Miss McGinnis, actually was talking about as it relates to rule. And I know that you guys amended it by adding a little bit more verbiage to the whereas. However, in your preamble of this article, or the very opening statements in all caps, the fourth line from the bottom, just an excerpt. Commercial and mixed-use zoning districts within, it says within, unincorporated St. Tammany Parish, and to provide for permitting of short-term rental. So when I see that word within, unincorporated, does rural fall within unincorporated for us to, and I understand the whereas is just a little complementary to what we're trying to get trying to get across. But are we mixing two different things there? And this is not just to you, Emily, but to anyone. When we say commercial and mixed-use zoning districts within unincorporated St. Tammany Parish, does that include rural
Yes.
areas?
It includes all of St. Tammany Parish except for the municipalities.
Except for municipalities. So in the whereas, and I answered myself, it's okay to add that verbiage.
Yes.
Because it's just further explanation.
Yes.
Okay. On my second question, page 9 of 11, and we're going to get back to the rural overlay. Article 5, amend Article 5, Division 7, section, let's go to short-term rental under the amended section 130, 2213.
So just before, oh, I'm sorry, before you go further,
Underneath amend section 130, 2213, minimum standards to add a new on page 9 of 11.
okay, go ahead. So
Part A.
those minimum standards, those apply to all of the zoning districts, not just the rural overlay. I just wanted to
Okay.
make sure you saw that bolded section that starts amend section 130,
Yes.
2213. That's not just applying to rural overlays.
That's adding rule.
No, that's minimum standards for all of the UDC, the entire zoning code.
Okay, okay. Now, on A, under A, where a short-term rental is allowed, who is the administrator? Who is the monitor? Who allows this? Or who doesn't allow it?
Well.
The
it-
staff?
Where this is located in the code, these minimum standards in section 13223,
Mhm.
allowed means allowed by the zoning district.
Gotcha.
So where is it allowed? It's allowed in, the NC 3 through 6, the HC districts, and those properties with a rural overlay.
Okay. Very good. That's it.
Okay, sorry to belabor this. Just had one other quick question. Along the lines of Ross and Emily talking about administrative permits and about, are we ready for the barrage of requests that are coming through? If I understand this correctly, most of these short-term rentals are residential properties in residential areas. And this ordinance, if it's pushed through, they're basically out of business. Is that correct? There's no permitting for them at this point in time. Okay. Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
I want to thank Commissioner Randolph for pointing out that I omitted adding my and rural overlay areas language into the preamble in the caps, and I'd like to propose adding it there as well.
That's the title of the ordinance, and the reason that it wasn't included there is because we're just using those zoning districts, and the overlay is not a district, it's just an overlay. So, we can, I was just concerned that it might create some confusion.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I will take back that request. It's not that big.
Commissioner Willie.
Just to follow up on that, you saying that's just, rural overlay is not a district, but then in that preamble, it don't mention the residential areas. It just mentions the commercial and mixed-use zoning districts. So wouldn't you have to mention residential then in that preamble? If rural overlay would be allowed to do those residential districts?
If you all want to add permitted in certain commercial and mixed-use zoning districts and properties with a rural overlay.
Yeah, properties with rural overlay or something like that,
Okay.
of that nature. I would think so. Yeah, why not?
And the other thing about that is it's not an automatic permitted use, it's an administrative permit that's being allowed in the rural overlay, so you're kind of getting in the weeds in a title of an ordinance. But if you all want to make that suggested amendment to the council, I can definitely put that forward to them.
Is that what you want to do?
It'd be up to Russ and Seeger.
Well, as long as everything would be covered, since you've got it in the whereas, I don't know why you omitted it in the preamble. That was,
Ken, Tom, y'all cool with what Bernie's?
If it adds some value, I'm fine.
yeah.
Tom?
What's the question? What's the wording that's been changed? Where are we
He,
now?
he's,
So on the first page, in the title, the all caps, all bolded language, the fourth line from the bottom, they are proposing to add after commercial and mixed-use zoning districts, to add and properties with a rural overlay, and then finishing within unincorporated St. Tammany Parish.
okay, all right. Commissioner Crawford?
Okay, one thing, we're the first people to look at this. If this passes and gets recommended to the council, I would speak to the people in the audience to come to the council meeting and voice the same, on both sides, opinions to the council people, and any amendments that you may have at that time. That's it.
Right, okay. So we have a motion and a second on the proposed ordinance as amended. Please vote.
The motion to approve as amended carries.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to item 19. Let these folks kind of get out of here. While all they're getting out of here.
We do appreciate everything you guys are doing. I know it's long nights and long days, and it's complicated, but we are grateful for everything y'all are doing.
While they're getting out of here, this one, who's gonna enforce it, and that right there, I think it's just got an F.
We got that one, and yes, Patrick was doing my spell checking for me.
All right, good. All right, the next item is item 19, 2021-2357-ZC, existing zoning's PF2, Public Facilities District. Proposed zoning is MD3, Medical Facilities District, parcel located on the east side of South Robin Road, east of Safe Haven Parkway, north of US Highway 190, Lacombe, Ward 4, District 7. It's 2.2 acres. Petitioner's Family Promise of St. Tammany Incorporated. The owner is St. Tammany Parish Government, District 7. Staff?
The subject property is part of the North Lake Behavioral Health System and is more specifically the St. Tammany Parish Safe Haven Development. And at this time, the objective of the zoning change would allow the Safe Haven to expand its services in the future with new buildings.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against on this? All right, I'm going to close it to the public, bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Randolph.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Randolph to approve. Commissioner Fitzmaurice.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fitzmaurice. Commissioner McInnes.
Yes, who in staff can I direct this question to?
Ask it and I'll tell you.
There's a lot of, I know this area really well because I worked on the establishment of the Wetland Mitigation Bank just north of Safe Haven. There's a lot of, well, there's some open space within the Safe Haven area. I'm just wondering why this wooded area was picked. Why what drove the selection where it is? It's sort of getting closer to the state park property boundary and, off Log Cabin Road. So I was just curious as to the selection, and I'm also curious how wet it is. And
Basically, what I can do for you tomorrow is get the master plan from Safe Haven. They have a master plan. So more than likely, it was based on that. Helen, you have any background information on why this particular location was chosen within Safe Haven?
No, this is a parcel that is owned by St. Tammany Parish, and this is the location that was, picked to develop the site.
Will you be conducting a survey for red-cockaded woodpecker before clearing, which is an endangered species, federally endangered, and is one of the most fabulous places to find that bird is on Safe Haven?
We require all the permits internally as we do externally. So any permits that are required from any federal agency or state agency or even within St. Tammany Parish, all the same regulations and rules are followed.
Okay, I guess that's the end of my questions.
Okay.
I would like to see that plan, though.
Sure,
I
that's
would
easy.
very
I can do that
much
for you.
like to see that future use plan.
It's a
And it could be that they
great
couldn't put
place.
it in the interior because there's trees with the birds, so
Maybe
that
that's
may,
the reason why.
that may be the reason, so,
Maybe you answered your own question.
anyway, so.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve 2021-2357 ZC. Please vote.
The motion to approve carries.
Thank you. We have no new business. We have no old business. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Thank y'all.